Just after 2 on a Tuesday, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill's Show. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Hennings producing today's show. You out there, Tuesday edition. Phil's win last night, little small ball. They get it done with the small ball last night. Buntgate. We'll get into it. Looking forward to today's show. As always, you can be a part of it. Text board open 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Your thoughts throughout the show. Nick Sirianni going to talk in about 15 minutes. We'll carry it for you at around 2:30. You'll hear from Nick Sirianni live on the Sports Bash. Sirianni meeting the media. It's the Eagles' mandatory OTAs, so we'll have an update. A programming note for today's show. Adam Kaplan and Football at 4 will be on at 4:30 today, and the Nuggets will be at 4 o'clock today. So Nuggets and Football at 4 flip-flopping today because of the Eagles' practice. Kaplan will be there at the practice. They end around 4 o'clock today, so Kaplan will jump on at 4:30 and give us a little insight on what he saw and everything out there. We got so much to discuss. Phillies win last night in a game that really shouldn't have gone extras. I mean, realistically, that's a game that shouldn't have been close, right? I mean, they pound out double-digit hits in the game last night, and their pitching was pretty good. I mean, you get an excellent game from Zach Wheeler in the game last night. He was, comes back after not pitching since May 29th in a game that he did not pitch very well in on May 29th. He comes back last night and dazzles for the most part. I mean, they're down early. And there's a lot in this game. There's so many little intricacies. That's what's cool about baseball. You can kind of look at every inning. There's a story. They're down in the first inning. You're thinking, oh, man, Wheeler, another game where maybe he's not sharp. Maybe he's just, because he has said before he likes his 5 days rest, pitching every fifth day, I should say. Not, he had 9 days rest, I think, in between. And in that first inning, when you go back to the first inning and you watch the game, and right off the bat, he looks good. He gets a strikeout early. Then he gives up a home run to Kyle Tucker, and you're like, oh, man, really? And then he settles in, and from that point on, he really dominated the game after that. Right? Wheeler just absolutely dazzled after that. But it's 1-0 Cubs, and we've seen the Phillies offense. And at that point, you're thinking, is a 1-0 game going to hold up the way the Phillies offense has been going and how bad they have been offensively the last, 2 weeks or so? And then the run that they actually score, they get that run in the fourth inning. Schwarber goes to third after a Bohm single to left. So Schwarber moves up to second. Then was Castellanos. So the Slap brothers, Bohm and Castellanos, slapping a couple singles, which then loads the bases up. So you have bases loaded. So even in the win last night, it's a microcosm of the problems this team has. You got a leadoff walk. You got Bohm on, so you got first and second with nobody out. Castellanos singles, so you end up having the bases loaded and nobody out. And Real Muto just hits a ground ball that gets the run home, but there's the first out of the inning, and then you hit a ground ball double play. Who hit the double play? Was that Sosa who hit the double? I think Sosa grounded into the double play. So then Sosa hits into the double play and ends the inning. So you have bases loaded, nobody out, you get one run. And at that point you're thinking, are you kidding me? But give the Phillies a little bit of credit. In the fifth, they end up scoring another run to make it 2-0. And you're thinking, the Cubs scored to make it. Philadelphia scores in the fifth inning. This game has got me all upside down. Philadelphia scores in the fifth inning to make it 2-1, and then you're wondering if Wheeler has enough left, pitches left to kind of keep this thing going. How the Phillies scored that second run? Kemp singled, and then he tried to. They tried to pick him off, and then they threw the ball away, and he went all the way to third, and then Weston Wilson got a hit. Of all things, how did I forget that? Yeah, it was Otto Kemp and Weston Wilson that teamed up for the second run of the game in the fifth inning.
The Sosa ground out was in the fourth inning,
and
then the second
Sosa grounded the double play to end that.
Right,
it was bases loaded, nobody out. Ground ball from Real Muto. They don't get the double play. They give up the run, and then Sosa grounded into the double play. The next inning, Kemp was the one. He singled to start the inning.
Correct.
And then he went to third. I was trying to think how he got, and then Boyd tried to pick him off. He threw the ball away.
Right.
And then he went from first to third on that, and then Wilson got a single.
Correct.
So good for Wilson and Kemp, the two guys. They get something for you. So then you're in a race against the pitch count because it's 2-1 in the seventh inning. And the Phillies bring in Tanner Banks, and that's where you're wondering, is a 2-1 game with the Phillies bullpen really going to hold? And then, of course, Strom comes in, and Happ hits a titanic blast off of Strom in the eighth, and then you get extra innings, to which the Cubs score first in the extra innings. They score in the 11th, and now you're down 3-2, and you're thinking, there's just no way you're scoring. Not with this offense. You've got it. You've already got enough blood from the stone today, and Brandon Marsh, of all guys, comes up with the bases packed, nobody out, and you're thinking to yourself, bases loaded, nobody out. You got to score here, right? But look where you are in the lineup. And you end up getting the Marsh. Now, Marsh, give him credit. He absolutely tattooed that ball, and he ends up scoring. 4-3, Phils win it. So I guess the questions that come from that game is the way. Now, they get a bunt. Real Muto singles. And Stott bunts. They don't make the play. Kemp bunts. They don't make the play. You have back-to-back bunts. When do you see that in a Major League Baseball game? But the question you ask is, do the Phillies, the way they win the game last night, you needed extra innings to score 4 measly runs in the game, but you pounded out 16 hits in the game and somehow only got 4 runs out of that. So do you look at that and say, hey, that's a good win against a good quality team? I feel like the Phillies have maybe settled in after all the criticism. Or is it more of you needed 2 bunts, 16 hits, and you only got 4 runs? I don't know. Did you watch that game last night and feel satisfaction? Or did you feel, oh, my God, is this the way it's going to be all summer long?
It's both. You're happy they finally broke the snap. Finally, they're doing. But then you're like, oh, my gosh, you won because of bunts? Like, it's a duality. Like Rob Thompson.
Why are we mad that they win because of bunts, though? Isn't that something we call for all the time? Why not play more small ball?
Well,
Why
we're not mad because of the bunts. We're mad because you just mentioned it. You had 19 guys on base, and you struggled to score 4 runs.
Was this? But I guess what I'm asking is, did Rob Thompson decide, you know what? With this offense, I'm going to have to change my approach. Like, that's not the way the game's really played anymore, but I'm going to have to do something different. We are so shorthanded, and we are struggling so much that I'm just going to have a little bit more of a hands-on approach to this. Like, I'm done letting these guys try to do it themselves. I've given you long enough. You can't get the job done. I'm going to start interjecting a little bit more. We're going to lay some bunts down. We're going to move some runners around. We're going to try to put guys in better positions.
Well, if that's the case, then the guy's the manager of the year because I never saw this coming.
Well, back-to-back bunts, but guess what? And by the way, so there's a lot in this game. He hits Stott for Sosa, and I think he hits into a double play, Stott does.
The first at bat.
Yeah, in the 8th.
Right.
All of these times where he's pinch hitting and he's hitting the lefty for the righty and the righty for the lefty, he hits Marsh for Wilson. And then he hit Kepler for Rojas. Kepler ends up. See, I would actually let Rojas hit there, and I'll tell you why. They put Kepler up to hit, and that was in the 9th. and they're facing a right-handed pitcher who I guess was Keller. Keller had now pitched into the second inning of work for him.
Right.
Now, he had already faced the minimum 3 hitters. So if I put Kepler up, my inclination is they're going to bring a lefty in.
Which is what they did.
Which is what they did. They brought Pomerantz in. You know, Pomerantz, I believe, you might have to fact check me on this. I think Pomerantz was in the same draft as Bryce Harper. So he brings Kepler up. Now, it sounds crazy. Your Rojas comes up. You hit for Ross. He can't hit, right? But I would have rather Rojas, a right-handed hitter, face Keller, a right-handed pitcher, who is now pitching into his second inning and given up a couple hits, by the way. Keller had given up 3 hits. So I would rather Rojas take a swing against a righty than the possibility, which has ended up happening, of putting Kepler up there and then bringing a left-hander into the game. So I didn't love that move there. It didn't work out. Kepler ended up popping up to like second base or whatever he ended up doing. So that move I didn't like. The Stott ground ball, double play, I get it. They have a right-handed pitcher. You're bringing in a left-handed hitter. In that spot, you know what? All of the righty-lefty analytics, I know the Phillies organization plays that by the book. But I probably just stick with Sosa there. I say, Stott, you know what? You're struggling. Take the night off, man. I mean, I only need you if I need you. If we get deep, deep, deep in this game and I have to go. But I think I would have hit Sosa there. Wilson and Marsh, I mean, I don't really have an opinion much there. Neither one of those guys. I mean, Wilson did have a hit earlier, but it was a little flare over the second baseman's head. But give Marsh came in, got 2 big hits for the team. In fact, the winning hit of the game. So maybe that gets Marsh going a little bit here. I don't have a lot of faith in that, but I'll wait to see.
By the way, Drew Pomerantz was in the same draft. Harper was number 1. Pomerantz number 5.
Top 5 pick.
By the way, this is a wild draft. Can I just give you some of the names who were in the first round?
You got Harper.
Harper's 1.
Machado.
Machado's 3rd.
Pomerantz.
Pomerantz is 5th.
I think that's about the extent of my knowledge of that draft.
Matt Harvey was 7th.
Matt Harvey, yes, I did know that.
Yasmani Grandal was 12th.
Okay.
Chris Sale was 13th.
Chris Sale I knew was in that draft. Dang it.
You want to guess who came after Chris Sale?
I don't know. I mean, when you say it, I'm going to remember it.
Dylan Covey.
Nah, I didn't know that one. Dylan Covey, the guy who pitched for the Phillies?
Yeah. Randomly, right?
Yeah.
Also, Christian Yelich was in the first round. He was 23rd overall.
Dang, that's a good draft for baseball. I mean, how many first-round picks in baseball do you see, like, that many of them actually make it?
Oh, but wait, I got 2 more names for you. Jesse Biddle was in this draft.
That was a Phillies pick.
And also, don't forget, Jamison Taillon.
Oh, Taillon. He's been all over the place. He was like the second pick in that draft, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
He's also on the Cubs.
Text board 609-403-0973. Mike, the double plays countered a lot of those singles, plus the pickoff and Castellanos trying to stretch a double into a single. Yeah. Well, that's part of the thing to that text message is the Phillies had all those hits, couldn't get anything going, and then got picked off. And Castellanos thought he was Vince Coleman trying to stretch a double on a play there.
When he tried to stretch that, I chucked my phone.
Wow.
Like,
that much anger, huh?
Dude, I'm just tired of this guy being the most brain-dead baseball player on this team. Like, he makes Rojas look like a genius sometimes.
Joe from Summers Point says, you guys talking about the bunts the Phillies laid down last night. You coach sports, especially baseball. You know that sometimes you have to go back to the basic fundamentals. You have to do the simple little things to help you win a game, and that's what I think the Phillies did last night. No home runs, none of that stuff, just simple basic fundamentals, and they walk out with the victory. Joe, you're right about that, and that's why I said, do you look at what Rob Thompson did last night and say, you know what, I give him a little bit of credit, because a lot of times, listen, people think, like, I love Topper. I don't ever blame him for anything. I don't like or dislike Topper. I just think he's insignificant. Like, people say, you don't blame him for anything. Yeah, I don't really think he has. He, to me, like most managers, not just Topper, it's every big league manager. Insert big league manager's name here. I'm going to feel the same way about them. They set the culture of the team. Now, you might say, I don't like the culture of this team, and that's Topper's fault. Okay, that's fine. But last night, I wonder if you actually say, you know what, I give Topper a little bit of credit for that game last night because he did actually have a hand in that game. The fact that they decided, you know what, we have a lot of slug on this team. Well, we're not slugging, so I've given you a chance to slug. You're not slugging, now we're going to do it my way. Now I'm going to have a little bit more say in the way we do this. So last night would be a game where I do give Topper some credit for the win. I mean, most nights I don't think Topper has a hand in their wins, losses, indifferent. I think he just kind of,
No, but I think that, the problem with Major League Baseball is that, people want to blame the manager for things that are completely out of his control. But then when he has a say in the game, people get all quiet. Don't want to give him credit.
Yeah, last night I don't give Topper a lot of credit for games, but I think last night you got to give him some credit. If you hate Topper, I think you do have to say last night. Now, I don't give him a lot of credit for most of their wins, and I don't blame him a lot for their losses. I think he's just what did David Sampson tell us? The manager in today's baseball is there to execute the plan that comes down from the front office. What do these guys do? In fact, where were we? During, I think it was the post game or pregame or something the other day, Batalico was saying, these managers really don't have a big hand in these games anymore. That he misses the way when he played because there was a designated hitter. You had to make the double, and which is why I love the designated hitter. I hate the designated hitter because you've really taken the managing out of the game for the manager. They're just kind of sitting there with their feet up now. But they kind of set, as David Sampson told us, who was, by the way, for those of you who don't know who David Sampson was, he was the president. He was basically Dave Dombrowski, but not with player personnel power. He was the team president of the Miami Marlins when they won their most recent World Series?
2003, yes.
Okay, so their most recent World Series, David Sampson was the team president. He now hosts a podcast. He talks a lot about baseball and kind of gives you a lot of insight on, how things are run. And he was on our show, and we asked him about the criticism of major league managers and what do they do.
And if there's a time where there's a mutiny, where the manager does something that we did not pre-approve or that we don't understand why he did it, that becomes a data point in our evaluation of that manager in terms of during game. It's all done not just with analytics, but with discussion. And if managers don't follow through on that plan, then you get a problem.
So last night, I think he deviated from the script. I think he said, you know what, we are going to lay some bunts down. But there's the one bite that Sampson talks about is that what do the managers do? They are there to execute the plan that comes down from the front office, which is, here's your lineup today. That's how we're going to manage today's game. That's who we're going with today.
So are you describing what Rob Thompson did is like when a guy hits a three-pointer and the coach is, no, yes?
Not necessarily. I do think that they probably got together before that game and said, you know what, we're going to have to simplify some things. Because Thompson said something the other night about possibly changing the lineup. You noticed that the lineup wasn't changed last night.
Not really,
So do
no.
we think Topper wants to tweak the lineup and that he's basically getting overruled?
I don't know if it's getting overruled, but I do think that I think there's way more of a cooperative element between the front office and the manager that people want to give it credit for. I don't feel like this is like, that Hard Knock season when Hugh Jackson is arguing with Todd Haley during the meeting about how to run the offense. Like, I generally do think that Thompson, Dombrowski, and Mattingly, when they sit down, they seem to be pretty much on the same page.
I agree, which is, I think Topper does have a voice to say, hey, I want to hit so-and-so leadoff. I don't think they say, no, you're not hitting him leadoff. Although, remember Moneyball, where Billy Bean goes to
Art Howe.
Art Howe, and he says, Hatterberg. And Art Howe's like, no. Hatterberg, no. Hatterberg. Well, you can't play. What's his name
Carlos
today?
Pena
today. I'm playing Pena. No, you're not. I traded him. You don't want to listen to me? I'm going to get rid of the guy.
I don't think that's happening at all between Thompson and Dombrowski.
No, I think it's a lot more. Hey, what do you think we should do here? Well, let's look at the numbers. Hey, we're going to go with Stott. Let's go with Stott for a little while. I don't know how much longer. Colin Ray's pitching tonight. He's another lefty, right?
Yeah.
So we'll probably see
Turner
in the leadoff spot. All right, text messages are coming in. But when we come back, the Eagles are back on the practice field. It's the final OTA. This is it. And then the helmets and the pads and the birds go away for a little while. Pour one out for the birds. But you're going to hear from Nick Sirianni coming up next on the Sports Bash, live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 227 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, Friday, we're going to be live at Maurice Pier. Pig Dog is where we'll be. It's the Eagles autism event. We're going to talk to Kyle Morey, the food and beverage manager at Maurice Piers, telling us a little bit more about what you can expect, which Eagles players might be out there. So stop out, see the Sports Bash Live this Friday from 2 to 6. We'll be in Wildwood at Pig Dog Beach Bar, Maurice Pier, from 2 to 6. They're kicking off the summer event benefiting the Eagles Autism Foundation. It's a tremendous opportunity to get out there and see some Eagles swoop, the cheerleaders, up close and personal. So stop out and see the Sports Bash Live this Friday at Pig Dog in Wildwood. First time the Sports Bash will be live from there. And then, don't forget, we got so many more events coming up. So if you want to make a day out of coming out to see the show live, we'll be at Pig Dog this Friday. And then we'll be back on the road Thursday the 26th. We'll have more details on that. And Friday the 27th, we're going to be out as well. And then in the month of July and August, you are going to have a lot of opportunities to come out and see the Sports Bash. And then, of course, by that point, we're going to get into Eagles season, and we'll be ready for the Birds, and we'll be back out on the road all football season long. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Nick Sirianni just finished up speaking to the media. We will play that in its entirety here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Among the things he discusses is some of the battles, right guard being one of them, and corner and safety, and Jahad Campbell, and when we can expect him to come back. So looking forward, I have not heard any of Sirianni yet. He just finished up his media availability, and you can hear that right now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
But it's coming to a conclusion. Is there anything different you did with maybe Saquon specifically in terms of limiting how many reps you got in practice, or anything different considering all the touches he had last year?
Yeah, everybody's always we always kind of think about every one of our players individually, the reps that they're getting, what's good for them, how their body's feeling, and that like I said, I've said this before. That takes everybody, right? That takes myself, the players talking to me, the players talking to the strength and the strength staff and the trainers of where we are. So, we just, everybody kind of had individualized plans like they always do. I mean, we kind of monitored everybody as we went. We got a lot of good work in. Saquon got a lot of good work in. I'm pleased with how the offseason program has went. We got another day, obviously, today. I'm looking forward to that.
Speaking of Saquon, he came out and said that he could at any time just call it a career like Barry Sanders did. What would your reaction to that?
I guess anybody could do that, right? I just know he's got a lot of good football left in him. I don't, again, I have interactions with these guys every single day, and so. I'm excited that he's on our football team, and he'll be on our football team for the 2025 season. And I really don't let myself get wrapped up into anything else beyond that, except for the day that we're in and trying to get ready for this practice, and obviously handle all those things as they come. And as long as I'm the head coach here, I'd always want Saquon Barkley on this football team. Obviously he means a lot to this football team, and as a player and as a teammate.
What did you notice? Tyler Steen's gotten consistent work with the first team at right guard. Has that been the case on the days we weren't here? And is that kind of how you're thinking about this going weekend? Yeah, again,
I know we talked yesterday too. Don't have to make any of those decisions quite yet. Got a lot of football to practice, a lot of football to play. Obviously a big part of the offensive line and the evaluation of the offensive line comes in pads. That doesn't mean we're not evaluating them like crazy right now, but a big part of that's going to come when we put the pads on.
Getting back to Elliot's question, what have you noticed about, the way Saquon has kind of attacked the offseason, the condition he's in, and everything after having such a huge load last
the way I visioned or saw him attack last offseason. That's what's great about this football team is, you see the same humbleness and a hunger that I saw going into the last season, and that's, Saquon, that's all the players on this football team. They're working, and we've had a good offseason.
In terms of last year, Trooper Jane over the summer had a tweak while he was going back home. Injuries happen. With rookies this summer, as you're about to let them go, is there anything that you're trying to get across in terms of how they manage?
Being great shape. We really pride ourselves on that you can't play with great detail and you can't play with great physicality. You can't play with relentless effort if you're not in great shape. So they'll have, obviously we all have conditioning tests. They'll have conditioning tests when they get back. Be in great shape, have your body, if your body's supposed to weigh this, that's what it needs to weigh, and make sure you can run all day. Because again, the thing you notice the most when you're not in good shape, one, injuries happen. The other thing that happens is your detail slips. And in every phase, the detail has to be on point. And you can't do that unless you're in great shape. So that's always my key message to them is, they got to be working their butts off. There's no substitute for working hard. And there's no shortcut around it. You got to be ready for the season and get your body ready for the training camp and then the season.
The Campbell won't be ready until sometime in August to practice. What are the expectations for him?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I never want to put a timetable on anybody. Some guys get through things quicker than others and vice versa. So no timetable on that as far as when he'll be ready. I know he's doing everything he can to get himself ready. And the second part of that question was?
Just the expectations for him based upon that. We saw Cooper, how it affected him. Yeah,
making sure that he gets all the mental reps that he possibly can get at this particular time. We're like, I think we're probably the only sport that practices more than they play. And then also that has more walkthrough even than you have practice reps. So, he's going to be getting a lot of those opportunities to watch walkthrough, to watch practice and get those mental reps. Because, as a guy is not in, obviously you're not working the fundamentals of block destruction or tackling or how to take the football away, but what you're trying to make sure that they have the mental part of the game down. And those are things that he can do in the film room. Those are things that he can do out in the field when he's watching practice. So that's that's kind of his mission right now and our goal for him right now.
Do you have a better feel for him as an inside linebacker than an edge rusher right now?
Yeah, again, looking forward to getting our hands on him and when he's able to start practicing. But he's a good football player. We drafted him because he's a really, really good football player and excited to have him in whatever role that he's going to execute. And we know that he's versatile and is able to do multiple things.
You talk to caller almost every year you've been here. Is this a little more seamless this year because Kevin's been here? And how is it going installing the offense with the players and adjustments?
Yeah, I think there's always a transition, with a new guy calling the plays. But, I don't want to compare it from one to the other or anything like that. I'm just focused on where we are right now. But Kevin's doing a great job. Kevin's obviously had the opportunity to be in front of the room. One thing I think Kevin's really doing, but one of the many things that I think he's doing really well. He always had an opportunity when Shane or Brian and Kellen were the coordinators to present in front of the room a section or two. I just think he does a phenomenal job teaching the room when he's the main guy up here doing that. And so, he's got the players' attention. He's got a great plan. He's got a great process. And that's where I've noticed that, he's done a really nice job of. And can't say enough about how good of a job I think he's doing to this point. And, he's got a relationship with these players. I think that's the big thing. That's probably the main thing maybe that you're talking about, John, is that he's got a relationship with these players. So, whereas Kellen came in and had to build relationships, Kevin's been around these players for going on 5 years now. And so, I see Kevin pushing those guys, out there being able to get those guys going, whether, it's, a high five to them or hey, get your butt going, because he has that relationship with the guys that he's been building. He's always been a guy that has had strong relationships in the building. That's a strong point of his as well, and that's suiting him very well right now.
Chance to talk to.
I'm sorry.
What was your reaction to his thing, and then also how did you feel about the Cardinals and Colts specifically voting against?
Yeah, it passed, and didn't want to go too much past that, and we're ready for to be able to continue to grow that play. Excited about being able to continue to grow that play and to continue. We got a lot of work to do to continue that success. It just doesn't happen. So the same work that we needed to put into it last year, we'll even have to be better because we know teams are going to focus on it to try to stop it. And we'll even have to be better at how we coach it and how we perform it and how we execute. And so that's really, try not to focus too much on things that I can't control and only focus on the things that you can. And that's our process right now to think about, the ways that we're going to get better to get better at running that play and the compliments that come off of it.
Mark, to Nolan last week, and he kind of said he thought he was ready he said strike.
He's always ready to strike.
Yeah, he's always ready to strike.
I love Nolan Smith. He is a tough dude.
How do you sort of weigh, maybe holding him back, or do you think that way? If he's cleared, he's cleared.
Yeah, we have great people in this building. It takes everybody. We have great doctors. We have great strength staff and training staff that helps me know that when they say he's ready to go, he's ready to go. And I've heard a couple of your guys' questions about well, how do you pull this guy back? When they're ready to go, they're ready to go. Everybody has an individualized plan to make sure that they're as healthy as they possibly can be. But the thing that we always have to remember, and that you guys always have to remember, is that the work to put yourself in position to win games, it takes what it takes. The work is, you have to put the work in. It's not, you don't save anybody for Sunday. Now, there's points in the year where you do, but the guys need to work. They have to work to get better at football. You don't get better at football because you get better at football because you're practicing football to get better at it. And so, obviously we have in-depth plan for everybody, obviously major conversations about everybody, but when they're ready to go and they give us the green light, they got to go and they got to, and that's what our players want too. We got guys that love to work hard and that love the process and the grind, and when he's ready to go, he'll go.
Have you researched at all the difference between, from a leadership perspective, coming off of a championship win versus a championship loss, and kind of how to navigate that?
Say that one more. Say that one more time.
Yeah. So this offseason, have you researched at all the difference between coming off a championship win and a championship loss from a leadership perspective? I know you've had a lot of conversations with guys.
Yeah, and that was my, the sustain. Really, I focused on sustained success, right? What were the common denominators of different coaches that I talked to, or players that I talked to, or Michael Johnson, other sports that that we talked to. That what were the common denominators of sustained success? And I think. Without getting into everything, I think there's two sides of it. You want to always. The main thing is it takes what it takes, right? You're going to have to be able to work extremely hard, and you're going to have to be able to overcome adversity. And you always have to be right in the moment of where you are. I think as I've done research and talked to these guys, and we've had an element of sustained success here as well. But you can have two ends of it, right? You rest on your laurels, you rest on your past accomplishments, and you're not here working, or you're looking too far ahead of how do we do this again? We're focused on our process and how we get better every single day. And, if your process is right, then it gives you the best chance to win. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win, but it gives you the best chance to win. And so our goal is just to focus and, is to focus on where we are at this particular moment, to put the work in, to overcome the adversity, and the rest will take care of itself.
All right, there's Nick Sirianni today. A short, sweet, in and out presser for Nick Sirianni as the guys are practicing. Their practice starts at 2:45. We'll have more on what happened at practice and what things Adam Kaplan noticed while he was there. He'll join us for today's Football at 4, which will be at 4:30 today. Sirianni, among other things, one of the things you talked about, a couple of years ago, I think it was 2023 when they were 10-1, and then they fell apart. somebody had mentioned that the team seemed like they were out of shape, right? That they looked like they were gassed the last half of the season. Sirianni really stressed being in great shape at these OTAs. That was one of the things he talked about early in the conversation here that you just heard on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Also, a couple hits from that I jotted down on my little sheet of paper here. Some of the things that I thought stood out. You can chime in as well, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live. Coming up at 3 o'clock, Frank Close has the Phillies mailbag. Knicks Nuggets today at 4 o'clock and football at 4:30 on this Tuesday Sports Bash. 248 Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. In about an hour from now, we'll do the unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Tomorrow, we got Stump the Sports Geek. Josh, are you ready for tomorrow's edition of Stump the Sports Geek?
I think my readiness is as good as it'll ever be because you never tell me the subject ahead of time.
It's like Jeopardy. You don't know the categories. That'd be cheating. You can go home and study if I tell you.
Well, the thing with Jeopardy is that you kind of have an idea of what the categories might be, whereas I think this is much more random.
You think so? Like, you think, hey, these might be the categories today? Like, why would they have any idea what the categories are?
For example, I know that, from watching interviews with guys like Ken Jennings, he's talked about the fact that, like, they do it when they do the qualifying for Jeopardy. There's a set of categories that you have to go through. And they typically kind of give you an idea, be like, yeah, these categories are kind of in line with the type of questions you'll be asked on the show. So then Ken said he went back and did a little studying about, like, okay, these are the kind of subjects I might be able to prepare for.
What is there? How many categories each round? Is there 6 or 7?
There's usually 6 categories in each round, and then you have Final Jeopardy.
So there's a possibility of 13 different categories. So you're saying in their tryout.
Well, because they usually have, like, the categories they use on Jeopardy are subcategories of, like, larger topics. So, like, every Jeopardy, there's history question, there's a pop culture question, there's a literature question. So, like, so then you have to break it into what in those subjects.
Like, when the people on that show get the sports category, they're upset.
Of course they are, because they don't study for that usually.
So I don't know about this. This sounds like it's like when they get like some sort of crazy literature category.
But they know there's going to be a literature category.
Yeah.
It's just
right. But you know that it's going to be a sports category. You just don't know what the topic is.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, similar to Jeopardy, where they know that there might be a history category. But in the history category, it could be anything from World War II to, I don't know.
Well, that's what makes the randomness fun, because then it's like, I got really no clue.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know what the clue is. Usually I don't come up with the category until I'm sitting here and I decide, I need 10 questions for today's Stump the Sports Geek. And last week it was because the first game of the Stanley Cup happened to be on Wednesday last week.
We did
so I went with Flyers stuff. Now, tomorrow is Game 3 of the NBA Finals. I could do, like, questions involving NBA Game 3s. That would be really tough.
That would be really tough, yes.
I wouldn't do that because I couldn't find 10 questions based on NBA Game 3s. I probably could, but it would take me a lot longer to entrepreneur all that, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. Although the questions I've come up with have been challenging.
Yeah, I think the only one that I did really well on was the NBA draft. Everyone else I've gotten either 6 or 5, and the one I got 3 on.
Real quick, Sirianni on Jahad Campbell said there's no timetable. Now, Vic Fangio had said that mid-August, so we figured before that Fangio misspoke or they didn't want him to speak on that behalf. So I thought that was something that maybe the most newsworthy thing of the day. I jotted down a couple things here. The Tyler Steen thing, I mean, the right guard, he said that's going to be something when they put the pads on.
Right.
That they'll be able to kind of figure that out more. You're not going to learn that today, which is obvious. Anything interior line, you're not finding out in OTAs.
Right.
Now you're not winning a battle in any capacity at an OTA, but as I always kind of think, you can put yourself on the map.
Right, you can put yourself into the coach's mind to keep a closer eye on you at training camp.
Yeah, he talked about the one big difference between Petula and Kellen Moore is that Kellen Moore had to use this time to familiarize himself with the players, that Petula already has a relationship with the players, so that, process is not something that they really have to, spend time on. Like, hey, I'm Kellen Moore. Nice to meet you. That's all kind of...
right, nobody's running around with name tags saying, hello, my name is here.
Right. Everybody's at mandatory minicamp, which, I think one of the big highlights of this was how long did he speak? 12 minutes? 12 minutes for a team that won the Super Bowl, which tells you there's no drama.
Yep.
There's nothing crazy happening with this team. It's just a kind of a quiet day on a Tuesday in June of football. And, you got TJ Watt not showing up, no contract.
Yep.
Wants a new contract. Trey Hendrickson not showing up.
And their first-round pick, Stewart, has not signed his contract still, so he's not at minicamp either.
So a lot of these teams have all sorts of craziness going on, and here's the Super Bowl champion just kind of living under the radar right now.
Dolphins are trying to trade Jalen Rams. They told him to stay away from camp.
609-403-0973, hour one in the books. We got so much more to go, including next hour, we're going to do the mailbag with Frank Close, 97.3 ESPN.com, Phillies Insider. I can only imagine the questions that we have for the Phillies today. If you have a Phillies question that you want Frank to address on the air, send it in now. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Frank's Phillies mailbag every Tuesday at 3 o'clock on the Sports Bash. You can get it now on our website, 973ESPN.com. And he will answer your Phillies mailbag questions next as the Phillies getting ready to play the Cubs in Game 2 tonight. It is Colin Ray going for the Cubs. Who's pitching for the Phils tonight? Oh, Mick Abel. Mick Abel goes tonight. All right, 3 o'clock hour Sports Bash. This hour is brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing, cooling, installation for generations. Call them at 609-390-3907. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Frank Close's Phillies mailbag is up on our website, 973ESPN.com. He answers your Phillies questions each and every Tuesday on the Sports Bash. Colin Ray, Mick Abel go tonight. That's your pitching matchup as the Phillies getting ready to take on the Cubs in game number 2. Now, last night they win in extra innings, Frank. But did that win last night make you feel like, yeah, see, those last 10 games, it was just, they were not playing that well. They seem to be turning things around. Did you watch that game last night and feel any better about the team's issues?
I don't think so, Mike. I mean, yes, it was nice to see a win for once, but let's face it, the Phillies, once again, did not hit a whole lot throughout the entirety of the game. And so I think it was lucky almost that they came out ahead. You eked by with the bullpen in certain spots. Anytime Carlos Hernandez pitches, you got to wonder how good you feel about that game for that day. But I think it's still the same. You still saw a lot of the same issues that have been plaguing the Phillies for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you got this team has so many different avenues we can go down and start of the problems that they have, but I guess one of them has been the offense. I mean, let's start with the offense. The bullpen had been a big conversation on this segment and other segments for a while here. We kept talking about the problems that the bullpen has, but do you now have more concern about the depth of the pitching, the offense or the bullpen? Which one is more of a concern?
Can both be the answer, Mike? I think when you lose a Bryce Harper, yes, you're losing a star player, but then it also is an indictment on your lack of depth. And the Phillies already struggling in center field, already struggling in left field. You now lose Bryce Harper with that too. And I think that this lineup can't function down one of their big guys. If they lost Kyle Schwarber, last year, of course, he had that little hamstring thing that took him out for a week, 10 days. That seems like that's the kind of thing that's too much to get over. So I think this is this kind of is an indictment on the full offensive roster construction, how there is no real bench depth right now, and that these platoons in left field and in center field, you are tying up 2 roster spots for one not good output offensively at either position. And I think we're seeing that's a real problem.
One of the questions, we talked about everybody's been talking about center field. Is left field almost a bigger problem than the center field problem that you have?
I think so, because you were kind of counting on left field to give you some of that power. You wanted Max Kepler to hit you doubles and some home runs. Weston Wilson's playing more than I expected he would, and I didn't account for his hit last night, but he was like at an 0 for, I forget the number, 19 before that or something like that. So, or when he ended up 1 for 19 after last night. That's not going to win you games, especially when you already sort of assumed that your center field position is going to be a no offense, all defense type position. So I think the Phillies went into it expecting center field to be light on the offense. They needed left field to give them something.
Yeah, that left field situation, Kepler has really been a big disappointment. I think Weston Wilson, I don't know what people were expecting from him, but he has been a disappointment, Frank, both offensively and defensively. He's been terrible in left field. Cost him a couple of runs on Saturday with some terrible play out there. They got to figure out that platoon situation if they can find a left fielder. They got to figure out center field, and that would bring us to Justin Crawford. What are they waiting for here? Is there a reason why? Do you understand why, or would you have brought him up by now?
I think they need to figure out what to do with the 2 center fielders they have. I think that's part of it. One or both of them could go out of the organization and trade deadline deals. Maybe they want to try to include one in the trade. I feel like both those players would have some value to somebody. So I think that there's a kind of a need to keep them around just a little bit longer. It's not ideal, but I think that you want to see if you can get something for them. I think you can stash a Rojas AAA, no problem. But I think you can get something, or at least include Brandon Marsh in a deal, and somebody would find value in someone like him. There's two categories of players, right? You have the ones that are the I'm here and ready to win type players, and then there's the kind that are a rehab project for a team. And the Phillies right now are not in a position to sit along and wait and see if these players develop. I think for Brandon Marsh, someone who was kind of on the bubble, talking about him into coming into the season, is he going to stick long term? And really, this was kind of a pivotal season for him to do so. And in fact, I think I even said, hey, he's kind of playing, if not to be the center fielder, but to maybe be the left fielder. If Justin Crawford's going to be the answer in center field, he hasn't shown that he's worthy of either of them. And perhaps another team has more time to invest in Brandon Marsh. But the Phillies need a win now.
Let's get some text board questions in. We'll get to the mailbag as well. Realistically, Frank, when do you think Harper and Nola will be back?
I don't think there's an answer to either of them. And here's what worries me about Harper. This seems to be a recurring problem. Last year, he had a sore wrist as well. I think he mentioned that after the season, when he got to rest it for a couple of months, it felt fine again, and he came into spring training it feeling fine. And I think it's going to be an issue where the Phillies training staff has to see if this is something that he can manage and play through. Shutting him down for 2 months is probably, I would say it's not an option. I mean, if that's what they have to do, it's what they have to do. But they need to make this work. So I worry that this is going to be that kind of thing that nags Harper throughout his career. So I think the training staff needs to figure out how to deal with it, or at least
throughout his career is not a good answer.
Well, I mean, there's a trend, right? I mean, if he's having this multiple seasons in a row, maybe there's something big picture going on that they have to figure out how to manage. And I feel like this is the type of thing that a lot of players do play through, but they have to figure out how to manage it. Now Nola, I still think they're just taking their good old time because they have options. This is an opportunity for Mick Abel to start some, see what he can give the Phillies team. And the trade deadline, I don't think the Phillies need a starting pitcher, but this at least gives you some opportunity to really assess what you have with Mick Abel, who a few weeks ago I pretty much tagged as perhaps their biggest trade asset. But he's got an opportunity now for the Phillies to say, I think we want to keep him around. So I think that the fact that the Phillies have the starting pitching is letting them be a little bit cautious with Nola and let him take his time and make sure he's ready to go, because what you saw out of Nola this year is not Aaron Nola that we're used to. So I think they're going to let this one go just a little bit longer. If there's any discomfort, they're just taking their good old time. He is throwing, so I mean that's a good sign, but they haven't really committed to a timeline just yet.
When you talk about Abel, a couple of weeks ago, it sounded like he was their trade chip. The way this team has played, are you willing to give up a asset such as Abel to get a rental player the way this team is going?
Well, I think it depends on what you get. I think the type of trade that they're more likely to make is if they're going to trade an asset like a Mick Abel, they want to trade for a player that's controllable beyond this year. So I think what we've seen Dave Dombrowski do with the trade deadline, he has picked up rentals that are just around for those few months and then are off into the sunset afterwards. But he's also made some trades for players that can help, just not that particular year, but also the following year. So I wouldn't be shocked if they're going to trade an asset like that. They're going to expect somebody who is controllable beyond this year. So I think they could move him, but if they do, they don't want it to be for just a 3-month window.
All right, Frank Close, 97.3 ESPN.com. Before we get to some more of the mailbag questions, we got some more text messages, questions coming in here. Let's go to this. Is an interesting one. If Otto Kemp sticks with the team when Harper gets back, what does that mean for Bohm?
Well, I think Otto Kemp he's getting an audition here to see if he sticks when Harper gets back, but I think he's more likely to get playing time in left field than third base. I don't think this would affect Alec Bohm's status on the roster. Now, when Kemp came up, he's mostly played third base, and Rob Thompson kind of said, hey, look, rather than throw him at first base where he doesn't have a lot of experience yet, we're just going to stick with third base because Alec Boehm is very capable at first base, and he's a little bit more used to it. So they're letting him ease into the major league, become a major leaguer as a third baseman, but I think you're going to start to see him maybe play some left field soon. And I think that the roster spot in question is not Boehm's, but I think it is Weston Wilson's. And I think that if he continues to show what he has, and by the way, so far with Otto Kemp, I'm pretty impressed. I liked his speed. I liked his ability to lay down a bunt. His defense at third base looks better so far than I expected. I mean, I only got to see him once at AAA. He did play third base when I went to see him. But I think he's the kind of player that's going to challenge Weston Wilson for a job and then really kind of try to prove between now and July 31st that he deserves to stay on the Phillies roster and that they shouldn't go acquire somebody to take his spot on the roster. So, so I think this is a matter of Wilson.
By the way, we got some news here on the Phillies. Their lineup, they have removed Bryson. All right, so real quick, the lineup is out. They have removed Bryson Stott from the leadoff spot. So we will get that lineup for you in just a second here. But it looks like, and that was one of the questions that we were going to talk about here, would you move Bryson Stott out of the leadoff spot? Well, it looks like the Phillies have done that. He is not hitting leadoff in tonight's game. I had the lineup up here in front of me. Here we go. Turner, Schwarber, Boehm, Castellanos. Stott is now in the 5 hole. Real Muto, Kepler, Kemp, and Marsh. So they move him from leadoff back to the 5 spot that he kind of occupied in that 2023 playoff run, I guess it was. What do you think of that?
I think they had to do something. Right? He just wasn't getting the job done. What I liked about him in the leadoff spot, I think he has the ability to take a lot of pitches. He's good every once in a while for an 11-pitch at bat that helps get the starting pitcher out of there. But that 11-pitch at bat doesn't always end in something that ends with him getting on base. So I don't think he was putting up enough numbers to be worthy of that leadoff spot. Trey Turner has. So I thought it was only a matter of time that they had to do something. And also too, as you said, Stott did do pretty well in the middle towards the bottom half of the lineup in the past. And he does make some contact. He could drive in some runs. So I think it's time to try that. But let's be honest, Mike, with a 644 OPS, you should not be the leadoff hitter.
Yeah, I was over. I didn't love him in the leadoff spot to begin with. I thought he performed admirably at first, and then he really crashed. They stuck with him a little longer than I probably would have. I don't know that number 5 is the spot, but I think it is a microcosm of how the lack of depth in their lineup without Bryce Harper. Because if Harper's here, now the question will be, if Turner's going to hit 1, is Harper going to be at 2 every day now, and Schwarber at 3? How do you think they do that?
I tend to think that that's how they would proceed, because I will say Schwarber batting behind Harper has worked pretty well, as much as it's going to work. Now, Harper still doesn't get a lot of pitches to hit. He's got to go out of the zone and find the ones that he gets hits on. But I think they definitely want to keep Schwarber behind him. I think that was a success. So I would imagine that when Harper returns, he would probably bat second, which is where a lot of the numbers people think that your best hitter should be hitting anyway.
So Harper would be 2 when he returns. You think Schwarber 3. Does that mean Boehm is kind of in the 4 hole again, and then Castellanos 5, probably Stott 6, and Real Muto 7, and then your platoons are hitting 8 and 9?
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to say it. So, really, what else is there at this point, right? So, and we know Real Muto, his numbers are down. His offensive production is way down, even though he's done a good job with the pitching staff as well. So, but yeah, really, you get to the point there once. Looking at today's lineup, the bottom half is Stott, Real Muto, Kepler, Kemp, Marsh. There's not a whole lot to get excited about that second half of that lineup. I'm sure we all want to see Otto Kemp some more, right? See what he can do. But you're not getting a lot of production out of the rest of the bunch. So you got to bunch up those stars in a row so you can get some runs.
Yeah, by the way, Kemp is in the 8 hole today. He is playing third base. Marsh is in center field, batting 9th today. All right, let's get a mailbag question. This is from the game last night. Here's one that no one will ask Thompson after the game. The Cubs walked Schwarber in the 10th. Why didn't Topper walk Armstrong in the 11th in the same situation?
Well, I think there's an actual explanation for this. The Phillies are the home team, the Cubs are the road team. And we've seen in this ghost runner era that 62% was the last number I found of those ghost runners, or whatever you want to call them, end up scoring, right? So when the Cubs are batting, it's a lot different than when the Phillies are batting, because in the 10th, the Cubs already batted and didn't score. So the Phillies, then, they just need one run to go and do that. So they're going to walk Schwarber and hope for a double play, and they got it, courtesy of Alec Boehm, right? So the walking Schwarber was a great strategy to keep the Phillies from scoring the go-ahead run, which would be the winning run. Now, when you get to the next inning, if Pro Armstrong's up, you realize that if he does score, the numbers say that more likely than not, the Phillies will also score, right? If it's 62%, and more times than not that the home team the team score, the home team at the bottom of the inning can probably tie it, no problem. So you don't want to put extra runners on that might be the winning run if you don't have to. So I think that's a matter of the home team there. They have a little bit more leeway than the team that's on the road that says, oh shoot, a single here can score the winning run. So the Phillies, I think, did play that appropriately there.
All right. Yeah, that was an interesting question. A good question by that guy there. All right, we got one from Greg who wants to know, is there any reason why this team should not announce themselves right now as open for business to sell and start the rebuild? This team has a 0 chance at winning a title. Zilch. Why prolong the inevitable? Start the process now before it's 1 year too late. I had a lot of people text in, you got to trade Schwarber, you got to trade Suarez. What's your take on Greg's question?
Look, I think one of the problems we have as Philadelphia fans is we are very much in this football mindset when it comes to reacting to the play on the field. Now, Mike, I went down to Tampa to see the Eagles and the Buccaneers this September, and walking out of that game, which was a terrible game, right? Kind of the discussion was, hey, if the Eagles lose one more game, I think it's time for Nick Sirianni to go, right? That was kind of the mood after the Eagles lost to the Buccaneers. And that's really because the football season is 17 games long. It's not 162 games long like baseball, right? So the impetus or the sort of the sense of urgency to make changes is stuck in our mindset because we also watch football and are big football fans too. So I think we need to put this 10-game stretch in perspective. This is less than this is less than 1 week of the Eagles' schedule if we're talking about 10 games. And yes, going 1-9 isn't ideal, but there's a real big difference there, I think. So I think it's not time to panic. The Phillies are still 10 games over the 500 mark. The Phillies are still the wild card leader. There's two teams even below them in the wild card standings who also are wild cards. So it's not time to panic. I don't think it's time to sell. I think what the Phillies can do is get to the July 31st trade deadline and see what they can do to improve the team. But I don't think it's time to give up on their season, and I don't think there's 0% chance either. So there are some moves to be made, but I don't think it's time to quit.
One thing we forget about, too, is the July 31st deadline is almost 2 months away. I mean, it's still pretty far. The difference between the team today and where, listen, we're all down on it. I'm looking at this team and wondering, Nick Castellanos, is he all of a sudden going to become an OPS maven? Is Alec Boehm going to break out and hit a bunch of home runs? Doubtful. Bryson Stott now in the 5-hole tonight. JT Realmuto, is he just cooked, or is he going to get back to the back of his baseball card? I mean, Brandon Marsh, big hit last night. He's been dreadful offensively. Max Kepler, haven't seen a lot out of him. So there are a lot of guys you're like, I just don't see them turning around. But there is a lot of time between now and July 31st, to which James wants to know, where do the Phillies even start fixing what's wrong with this team? Well, they have about 2 months to figure it out. Do they start now? Do they wait? Where do they even start?
Well, the problem is you can't start now other than give Otto Kemp an opportunity to see if he belongs on the roster. I think that can help answer a question. And I also would advocate for adding Justin Crawford to the roster sooner than later to see if he is one of the answers that you have. But from my perspective, the Phillies need 4 things. They need a right-handed bullpen arm, a left-handed bullpen arm, a right-handed outfield bat that can platoon or start in left field, and also a quality left-handed bench bat. So those are a lot of pieces for the Phillies to add, and you kind of have an idea of some of the names that might be available. I mean, the Colorado Rockies have Jake Bird, who is a right-handed bullpen arm who's had a very, very good season. If the Phillies can get somebody like him, I think you'd feel a lot better about the team. Left-handed, I've got one name for you, Mike, that I read might be available, and it's kind of ironic, I suppose, but his name is Garrett Clevenger, who you may remember is the guy that the Phillies traded for Jose Alvarado. But he could be moved, and he's having a really nice season. He's really come into his own as a left-handed reliever. And so if he's available, I think the Phillies would be good to go for someone like him. And then from the right side, Andrew McCutchen, will the Pirates trade him? I think they had a handshake agreement that they won't, but recently the Pirates GM said, hey, listen, anybody who's not named Cruz or Skeens is available for trade. And I think if McCutchen's willing to come back to the Phillies, I would like a player like him.
The one question about McCutchen, and I agree with you, could he play he doesn't play the outfield hardly at all for Pittsburgh. He essentially DHs every day. Can he play in the outfield multiple times a week, do you think?
I looked up his defensive numbers, and they're actually pretty decent. They're not negative. You're getting negative numbers out of some people on your roster, but I think that there's a real opportunity for him to maybe play some left field. I don't know that. Again, you're talking about a platoon, perhaps. So I think that he is. In fact, I'm trying to pull up his. The sad part
with him is you're talking about platoon. You almost would want him batting second in this lineup almost every day if you could.
Yeah, or I mean, even if he's batting like 7, I think that would be very, very helpful to this Phillies team. I'm just trying to pull up his numbers on the fly here. So, yeah, he's played 7 games in the outfield this year. And
not a lot.
It's going okay. Yeah, you're right. It's not a whole lot, but I think they could eke by. I mean, and as you said earlier, Weston Wilson isn't giving you a lot either. But Rob Reef-Snyder is another one that someone mentioned in the mailbag last week. That's a pretty good one to maybe look at. So I think there are some options out there. Maybe a left-handed bat, maybe like a Michael Conforto who's struggling as a starter. Maybe you can get some professional at bats from a lefty like that. So this is just a snapshot, but again, you don't know what teams are willing to trade just yet. The Pirates are one of only a couple that actually acknowledge that they're going to be sellers.
Yeah.
But as you said, almost 2 months. We're talking 7 weeks from now. Who's going to quit now if they're around the 500 mark? To me, like anybody that's within 3-4 games of the 500 mark can have a good week and think that they're in it. So there's a long way to go before you can actually start filling in who might fill those things. But yeah, lefty bullpen, righty bat, lefty bat. I mean, that's a long shopping list for a team with 26 spots.
Yeah, I tweeted out yesterday they could use an upgrade at second base, third base, left field, center field, right field, and probably catcher. I mean, I know Real Muto's a very popular guy, and he still throws well, but quite frankly, Marchand throws just as well as he does, right? I mean, so you don't lack the guy throwing runners out, even with Marchand. Real Muto's bat, now he had a nice hit last night. He's starting to come around maybe. Hopefully he does. But right now, up to June 10th, if the Phillies made a trade and got a better guy in any of those positions, I couldn't argue with them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think that catching and second base are their bigger problems. So, but no, I think those are positions they can worry about in the offseason.
All right, Frank Close has his mailbag up right now at 973ESPN.com. You can check out all of the questions over there, and, of course, right here on the Sports Bash Live every Tuesday on 97.3 ESPN. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, Frank Close, everybody, 97.3ESPN.com. Check out the mailbag over on our website. The Phillies lineup is out. We will break it down for you because there are some changes in the lineup, and it is a big one that we'll discuss. That's coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Subscribe when we come back. That Phillies lineup does have a big change in it. We'll discuss it next. All right, 331 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. So, Phil's tonight, the lineup is out, and a little change to the lineup. Not a little change, probably a big change, and I would imagine this is a change that will basically stay in place for the foreseeable future. Turner is leading off, and it's significant because they are facing a right-handed pitcher tonight. So, Trey Turner hits leadoff against a right-handed pitcher. Generally, they have been hitting a left-handed hitter, Bryson Stott, in the leadoff hole. Now, they are moving back to Bryson Stott, moving deeper in the lineup. We'll tell you where he's hitting in just a second. But Turner hits leadoff. Schwarber is 2. Bohm is 3. Castellanos is 4. Bryson Stott is hitting 5th. JT is hitting 6th. Kepler 7th. Kemp 8. Marsh 9th. So, a couple things here. I have been saying I would hit Bohm 2 and Schwarber 3. Here's a question, and this is one of the reasons why. Did you see what happened last night in extra innings? Turner got on base, and then what happened? They walked Schwarber. If Bohm is hitting there, you're not walking Bohm to get to Schwarber.
Not at all.
So now you might say, well, who the hell cares? Bohm's not getting on base anyway. And then you would get to Schwarber. If Bohm doesn't get on and Schwarber comes up, maybe they then walk Schwarber. But my point being is, if Bohm got on and now it's runners at first and second, are they going to walk Schwarber to load the bases up? They might not be as inclined. So, in other words, Schwarber hitting behind Turner there, it's almost a fait accompli that they're going to walk Schwarber. They're just saying, we're not going to pitch to you. We'll go after Bohm. But if Bohm is hitting in the 2-hole, it gives Schwarber a better chance, I think, to swing the bat. And if Bohm somehow, by the grace of God, gets on base the way although he's been pretty good in the month of May, but he's been brutal this year overall. Bohm, my God, the guy is having a meltdown up at the plate. I mean, he strikes out, he slams his bat. The guy is just tough to take sometimes, man. But I think if he was hitting in the 2-hole and he somehow got on base, then you have to pitch to Schwarber in that spot.
Yeah, because the thing is, Schwarber has shown you for the last few years in Philadelphia, he doesn't need protection to hit. Doesn't matter who's behind him. He's going to do what he's going to do. He's going to be productive. Bohm, on the other hand, has shown you, Mike, that if he doesn't have a guy behind him, he needs that protection. He needs a little bit of a help at the plate.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Bohm is a guy who, he's high propensity to ground the ball into a double play. He's a guy who puts the ball in play a lot, but because he puts the ball in play a lot, he hits a lot of balls on the ground, hard at people. He doesn't run well, so that leaves him into double play. Now, the ball he hits last night, he grounds it to third. Literally, the momentum of the third baseman has him step right on the bag and then throw across the diamond. I mean, it lined
up perfectly.
It lines up perfectly, but in those extra innings, I'm wondering if Bohm was hitting 2 and Schwarber was hitting 3.
How that would have played out differently.
If they pitched to Bohm instead of the other way around, they walk Schwarber to face Bohm. And then he ends up hitting into the double play. But in this instance, would they have pitched to Bohm, and then if Bohm somehow got on, then Schwarber comes up with first and second potentially, and I guess there was one out in that spot.
There's one out, yeah. I would have guaranteed you they would have pitched to Bohm.
I think it just gives you a better opportunity for Schwarber to get to swing the bat. It lessens the possibility of Schwarber getting walked. Now, because that's what happened earlier in the season, that was the propensity of moving Schwarber to that spot, which was they kept walking Harper to pitch to Bohm.
Correct.
Or was it Bohm or Castellanos or whoever was hitting?
They both have taken turns behind Harper.
Yeah, I don't know if they had moved. I think Bohm was hitting 8th at the time, or he was somewhere down in the lineup. But early in the season, they were walking Harper to face whoever was hitting behind him, and then the Phillies finally said, all right, that's enough, and they moved Schwarber behind him.
Harper. Yeah.
So in this instance here, I think the Phillies would have been better served. I think they will be better served. Now, we talked about it with Frank. They have changed the lineup, thankfully. the Stott thing is over. Now, I've been asking for that for about a month. I did not need to see Stott hit leadoff to begin with. I shake his hand and give him credit. He exceeded my expectations in the leadoff spot for about a month, or probably 3 weeks. And then he was dreadful. I mean, he was a dreadful leadoff hitter by the numbers. That being said, what do you do now? Well, you have Turner hitting 1. Now, with Harper out, you have Schwarber hitting 2. My question becomes, when Harper returns, does he go to the 2-hole? I would imagine he does, and they just go Turner, Harper, Schwarber. I guess Bohm will be hitting 4. But the problem I have with that is it just, to me, lacks depth when you've got Bohm hitting 4. He has no business hitting in that 4 spot, and they don't have another guy. Castellanos, he has failed miserably as the 4 guy.
Not just as a 4 guy. Castellanos he's not reliable at anything.
He's not reliable at anything. Yeah, he has not been a reliable middle-of-the-lineup guy. Now, I mean, last night, actually, Castellanos, give him credit. He had a good game last night. Although he got thrown out trying to go for 2.
Which, again, it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back with that guy.
So, yeah, right now, with Harper out, I would be more inclined. I'd even be more inclined with Harper out to I can't hit Stott in the 2. Okay, it's a right-handed pitcher I could.
I mean, you could. I just think that why not just set a lineup and stick with it?
Well, you can't because
until
of all
Harper
the
gets back.
platoons. Can't stick. I mean, what are you going to – you got 3 platoons. How are you going to stick with a lineup?
Well, I mean, you stick with guys saying, okay, this is the slot for these guys.
Well,
at the top of the lineup,
Turner, I would go Turner, Bohm, Schwarber, and then after that it's such a problem because then Castellanos hitting 4th, I guess. They got Stott hitting 5th today. I'd probably just put the Kemp kid there and just say, listen, we know these other guys can't. Can you?
Right, why not? Give it a shot. See what happens.
Seriously, I mean, he hit him in the 5 spot, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, you've got whatever incarnation of Stott, Realmuto, Kepler, and Marsh that you want to go with.
I mean, you got a 3-game series coming up with Toronto. You get to rerun it back with Toronto now in your house. Why not tell Kemp for that weekend, you're the full 4-hole hitter?
No, I don't know about that.
All 3 days.
I don't know about that. I mean, why wait till Toronto? Why not start tonight? I mean, what are you waiting for a couple days for?
Because I'm forced to, because Rob Thompson and the Phillies are making me wait.
Well, I'm saying tonight before the game,
right.
I would go Turner, Bohm, Schwarber, Castellanos, and then Kemp. And probably Realmuto.
Or Stott.
Now, the problem with Stott, and then you have Stott and Kepler and Marsh, you got 3 lefties hitting in a 4-person spot there, and you can bring in a left-hander to face all 3 of them at one point. And then when do they bring that lefty in? If they do it in the 5th inning or the 6th inning, are you essentially wasting an inning? Do you then hit for all 3 of those guys in the same inning?
Yeah.
That makes it difficult too.
Right. I mean, I'm just thinking about like this, whether it's Kemp or Castellanos, put them at 4, Stott right now is 5, and then put the other guy at 6. So, like, if it's Kemp 4, Stott 5, Castellanos 6.
What are Stott's numbers in the 5-hole?
I know you should ask that. He has the most career at bats in the 5-hole in his career.
Well, he hit 5 a lot in 2023.
2023, right. Not a good batting average, 225. Not a good on-base percentage, 283 as the 5-hole hitter. But he does have more RBI in that slot than any other spot in his career with 46.
He should. He has more runners on base in front of him in that spot. So I'm not putting a lot of stock. Now, listen, I'll give you credit if you're knocking guys home. Like, if you drive in a lot of runs, I don't really, that's not, like, people are like, you care too much about runs batted in. Yeah, I like guys who drive runs in.
I like to score runs.
You don't have to get on base if you drive the run home. Like, you can get an out. It's a productive out if it drives a run home. So if you have a guy on third and you bring him in on a ground ball, I'm okay with that. If you get a sac fly, which doesn't count as an official at bat, that's fine. Drive a run home. I definitely have, Alec Bohm. One of the things that I've always said I give Bohm a lot of credit for, and Dave Gallagher brought this up yesterday. He has one of the highest batting averages in the majors with runners in scoring position. Over the last 2 seasons, not this year. I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about his previous 2 years.
Yeah.
When he drove in 97 runs back-to-back seasons. How did he drive in 97 runs? He had one of the highest batting averages with runners in scoring position. I'm sorry. That's a number that I like. You hit with runners in scoring. Now, this year he's been awful in that spot. I don't know what his numbers with runners in scoring position are this year. Batting. That's a hard number to find in terms of. I can find it on Baseball Reference, but I'm talking about in terms of league rankings.
League rankings, yeah.
I don't know what he's hitting with runners in scoring position this particular year. I can't imagine it's great. He has seemingly been terrible with runners in scoring position this year. But one of the numbers about Bohm that I always said, listen, like Bohm or not, he was one of the top 5 hitters in the National League with runners in scoring positions. He's one of the top 10 hitters in all of baseball with runners in scoring position, which is, I can't even believe that because it seems like he hits into a double play every single time he comes up with runners in scoring position. But got to give the guy a little bit of credit. He has produced with runners in scoring position, which is why I think I would put him in the 2-hole. I would give Bohm the shot to hit in the 2-hole. Right now, with the way their roster is currently constructed with Harper out of the lineup. So Turner, Bohm. I mean, the only other guy you can think of, if you want to really get outside of the box, I guess there's a couple guys. If you could go Turner and give the Kemp kid a chance in the 2-hole. I mean, you could just completely try something crazy and just say, you know what, Kemp, you're hitting 2. He had a really high on-base percentage. In fact, his on-base percentage at AAA Lehigh was higher than Crawford's.
Interesting. Now, I'm assuming some of that's probably because he was getting walks because he's, slugging homers, right?
I don't care that's what your on-base percentage is, getting walks and getting hits. That's how they calculate on-base percentage.
I know that's how they calculate on-base percentage. I'm just saying that in my mind I'm thinking about the why.
His on-base percentage at Lehigh was .416. I mean, that's obviously not going to be on base 41% of the time at the major league level, but his on-base percentage is actually higher than Crawford. I think Crawford's like .406. He walked 25 times. I don't think that he's walking all that much either. He's just hitting the crap out of the ball. The dude is just hit. 14 homers, 55 runs scored, but he can also run a little bit. He has 11 steals, so he's not a guy who's, and somebody asked him last night, it seems like Kemp can, and Topper had said, yeah, well, he hustles. He runs hard.
Right.
Hey, listen, bat him in the 2-hole, and you're going to get a guy hustling. I would think about that.
And maybe that's the real temporary answer. Just get more guys who are going to bust their tail at the top of the lineup before Schwarber comes up.
That's it. Turner, Schwarber, Bohm, Castellanos, Stott, Realmuto, Kepler, Kemp, Marsh. That's your lineup tonight here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube at Mike Gill Show. When we come back, it's our unsportsmanlike moment of the day. We'll see where you stand on this one today from the team in the morning. You can listen to Unsportsmanlike weekday mornings at 6 a.m. right here on 97.3 ESPN. Stay tuned. The unsportsmanlike moment of the day is next.
I think it's a little bush league, but I don't expect anything less from these guys, so it's no worries.
The Cardinals used to get the better of Clayton Kershaw in the postseason often. It's not going to be, hey, congratulations on the World Series you won since that moment Big City went yard against you in 2014. It's going to be like, let's play it on the Jumbotron. You weren't great. That's sports. It's supposed to be fun. Grow up. Get over it.
All right, that's our unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Let's debate this one here. I have to agree with Michelle on this one. I mean, Kershaw, really? Seriously? This bothered you? They played a video of him giving up a home run from 2014. Isn't that what sports are? Get in your head a little bit, make you remember moments of failure, and then put doubt into your head?
He pitched a great game, though, so obviously you could argue it motivated him. Maybe they should play that video more often.
Right. I mean, I don't see why, but he's saying, oh, they do this kind of weak stuff all the time. Isn't that gamesmanship? Isn't that what sports is? I mean, isn't that like everything in sports is gamesmanship, getting into your head?
So for those who don't know the whole story, so the Cardinals played the home run that Matt Adams hit off Kershaw years ago in the postseason, but they played it like 10 times consecutively before Kershaw finally took the mound for his start.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I didn't know they did it on repeat.
Oh, they did 10 times.
That's a little weak sauce.
This is from Katie Wu of The Athletic. She was explaining that they played it consecutively 10 times, the home run from the 2014 National League Division Series.
I didn't know they played it like over and over and over. I thought it was one time.
It was played on a loop.
Okay, that's a little immature, but I still like it. Get in your head.
Well, apparently it motivated him because he went 7 innings and shut down the Cardinals in the game.
Good. Well, good for him for bouncing back. So, do you think that that's weak sauce from the Cardinals?
I think it's weak sauce. They played it on a loop.
On a loop. I would agree. I didn't realize they played it on a loop.
Yeah, to me.
Because the way she presented it was, hey, they played the video. These teams have played each other a lot. Get over yourself. But
this is the situation where, like, someone should have asked Michelle on the morning show on Sportsman, Evan Cohen or somebody should have been like, well, they played it on a loop. What do you think the guy was going to say?
Yeah, I didn't know that they played it on a loop. I think playing it on a loop is weak sauce. One time, I'm on Team Michelle Smallman. Playing it on a loop, I think I got to go Kershaw here. Not that it would bother me. Like, if I'm Kershaw and you play it over and over, I think it's funny, like it's a good laugh. Hey,
they introduced Kershaw. Remember this? And then I'd be like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it would take a lot to get me to really. Can you imagine me getting up?
Kershaw had 5 scoreless innings and 7 strikeouts in the winner of the
last
Cardinals.
night or
no,
whenever
in the game
was?
that this happened.
Yeah.
So it's like
I think
they showed the video. According to one person, it was on loop for 7 minutes.
That's our unsportsmanlike moment of the day. Oh, man. Brought to you by Broadley's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing service installation for generations. Call 609-390-3907.
Can you imagine Broxton coming back to Citizens Bank Park and then playing the Matt Stairs
that'd
on
be
a
great.
loop for 5 minutes?
How great would that be if the Phillies put that up on the Jumbotron? Into the night, into the night,
again.
Into the night, into the night. Or Rollins hitting the double in Game 5 in 2009. Braxton comes in the game. Every single time he takes the mound, it's Rollins or Stairs. Now pitching for the Dodgers. All right. Nuggets are next. All right, 4 o'clock, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. No football at 4 right now. Football at 4 is coming up in about a half an hour from now on the Sports Bash. Adam Kaplan is at Eagles practice, which is running late, so he will be joining us at the bottom of the hour, and we are flip-flopping today. It's a little flip-flop. It is a football at 4:30. It's a Nuggets at 4 o'clock. Nick's Nuggets are in the house. Nick Earnshaw and Nick's Nuggets are brought to you by The Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. So let's bring in the host of the Shift podcast and producer of The Locker Room Weekends on 97.3 ESPN. Nick Earnshaw joins me right now for another edition of Nick's Nuggets on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. What's going on, Nuggets?
What's going on, Mr. Mike Gill? Kaplan and I doing a little switcheroo. I'm honored to lead into 4:30 for once. It's a little bit different. You got to prepare a little bit differently. 4 o'clock versus 4:30. I'm honored. I'm honored to be in the football at 4 time slot today, Mike.
I got to say, this is one of the only times we have not had football at 4 on in, I can't even remember the last time we did not have football at 4. There was one time I think Kaplan did one at 5 o'clock during the season, but that is a rarity not to have football at 4 in this spot. But we promise we will be doing football at 4 coming up in a half an hour.
Listen, I hope the 4:30 shoes can fill the 4 o'clock shoes and vice versa today, all right? Because, Kaplan's in the Nuggets spot. It's a pretty big deal, too, I just have to say, overall. But nonetheless, yes. By the way, you mentioned, the Shift podcast. We're going to Fenway tomorrow. We're going to do a podcast from Boston up there. We're going to go to the game. It's going to be Red Sox Rays. They just called up Roman Anthony. That's going to be exciting, so stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of content coming out baseball-wise. If you're a baseball fan, stay tuned to the socials. We'll have that going on. But we got to talk a little baseball anyway. From last night, the Phillies played a little small ball. There is nothing that gets me more excited than seeing a team playing small ball, Mike Gill. I mean, listen, you're bunting twice. I saw 2 perfectly executed bunts in the 11th inning last night. I don't think I've seen 2 perfectly executed bunts in 2 games rather than 1 inning and a couple at bats. That was unbelievable. So, listen, last night, Rob Thompson, he even acknowledged it. They had 19 base runners and only scored 4 runs last night. So they had to do a little bit of bunting to get it over the edge and win the game at some point. But, Mike, I mean, with the way the Phillies are going, last night didn't change much for me. All right, I know Brandon Marsh had the walk-off. He was the hero. I get it. Center field's still a massive issue in my estimation. But seeing the Phillies play a little bit of small ball with the struggles they've had with the offense, injuries, Harper's out, would you like to see them continue to play a little bit more small ball to manufacture runs? I mean, they out-hit the Cubs last night by a mile, and they had to go to extras. This is a team right now that's struggling offensively. I need to see more of that small ball, Mike. I know it's a rarity in today's game, but didn't you love seeing it just a little bit last night?
Yeah, I don't mind seeing it every once in a while. If you do it every single night, now you're desperate. I mean, come on, this is the majors here. We're not playing 8- and 9-year-old Little League baseball. Let's give it a rest. I mean, people who get excited about watching guys bunt back-to-back, it's a little sad and pathetic, actually.
Mike. Oh, come on, Mike. I mean, I run on second. You got the ghost runner. Play some small ball. Get the guy over.
Yeah, in that situation, I don't mind it. In that situation, I agree. I'm not saying then. I'm talking about people want it every inning of every game. You got to run her on first. You got to bunt them over. It's a different game. Like, they just don't play that way anymore. Well, why not? It works. I mean, if you did it every night, it's not working every night. You got to do it like you did last night. The element of surprise is why it works. If you do it all the time, you're less inclined to have it work as much. Now, listen, with this team right now, I talked about this earlier. I thought Topper, they didn't walk Pete Crow Armstrong. He ends up ripping a ball. They have a base open, where the Cubs end up walking Schwarber, and it bit both teams. Actually, no, Schwarber, they ground into a double play right after. So the Cubs walk Schwarber, they ground into a double play. Phillies don't walk Pete Crow Armstrong, so I thought that was a decision that probably, now, Frank, we talked about this during the mailbag, and he had all these stats as to why the home team does not walk the guy in that situation. I don't know that I'm on board with that. But he's saying the statistics, the analytics show that the manager would not walk the guy in that spot as the home team. It does show that you walk that guy as the road team based on the percentage times that the home team scores with the runner on second base. So he's saying, according to Frank, not walking Pete Crow Armstrong was the right move by the analytics. That being said, I don't love the analytics. I don't like managing that way, and I hate that the Phillies are such an analytically based team the way that they are. But in extra innings in that spot, yes, I'm laying down the bunt. I'm moving the guy over to third. But it's a microcosm of how bad the lineup is that I think you have to give Topper a little bit of credit in that sense that he said, the hell with all this stuff. I'm just going to lay a couple bunts down because we can't hit.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sometimes you got to win a game that way. And when you lose 9 out of 10 games and you're in a position like they were last night, get a couple of bunts down, great. And shout out to the kid, Otto Kemp. I heard after the game that he hadn't laid a bunt down since the Northwoods League in 2021. And he said Rob Thompson approached him over the weekend in Pittsburgh and asked if he could bunt if the situation called for it. And Kemp said he could get one down, and he did, Mike. The kid, Otto Kemp, coming up, getting a big bunt down. I mean, listen, Johan Rojas has been trying to bunt for 3 years, and he can barely get one down. So credit to Otto Kemp for getting it down.
Didn't Rojas bunt twice last night?
Yeah, but he doesn't. I don't like the way he bunts, and when he's asked in a big moment to bunt, he flounders. He flounders in the big moment bunt. I can't have a big moment bunt floundering.
By the way,
Kemp got it done.
How about the foresight from Topper to go to Kemp and ask him if he can actually bunt? Not even knowing. Right. Hey, can you bunt? Because we stink so bad, I might have to ask you to bunt.
Yeah, that's when you know you're in trouble. So I was glad they brought out a little bit of small ball last night. I'm exaggerating a little bit with seeing it all the time, but it was nice that they brought it out because, listen, this team's been struggling offensively. I mean, they had a ton of hits last night and still couldn't manufacture runs. The guys on base, they couldn't drive them in. I mean, it's the same old story with the Philadelphia Phillies. So cool to see that small ball from the Fightin' Phils. That was fantastic. Loved it, to say the least. And Kemp getting it down after being asked by Rob Thompson was awesome. Also, I love to hear that story. He hasn't bunted in 4 years. He got one down his first try.
I'll tell you what, it'll be interesting to see. Now, they moved the lineup. They shifted the lineup a little bit. No more Stott in the leadoff hole, thank God. No. But to see if they go back down that road again and start to use a little bit more small ball with this lineup that you have right now where you're not manufacturing a whole heck of a lot of offense.
No, you're not. And I think you're going to see it a little bit more, I guess, in close games like that. They have to at this point. You can't lose 9 out of 10. You got to find a way to get a spark. I think last night, hopefully it carries over because you're getting all these great. I was going back and forth with people on Twitter last night. You're getting all these great starts, but they're being wasted because you're not scoring any runs. You're under 500 when a team scores 2 or more runs. I think they're 19-23. I believe that's the record that the Phillies are. You have great starting pitching. The offense has to score runs. I don't care how you do it. Last night they did a little small ball. I'll take it if you're a Phillies fan.
They got picked off first base. They got thrown out trying to extend for a double. I mean, so, yeah, you had to try to come up with something because of the mistakes that you were making. Sloppy game. They won. They needed the win. But according to the poll question, did last night's win by the Phillies over the Cubs make you feel any better about this season? 76% right now say, nah, still too many issues. 23% absolutely they feel better based on last night's win. But 76% still not buying it. Vote at Mike Gill Show on the Twitter X platform.
Yeah, I'm still part of that 76%, Mike. Not last night. One game's not going to do it for me. So, listen, big win. Let's see if it carries over. Cubs are a really good team. They already have 40 wins on the season. So that was a nice victory overall last night. All right, let's move along. Nugget number 2. Staying with the Phillies a little bit. Jim Bowden had an article in The Athletic talking about trade options. And he talked about the Phillies, their biggest need, obviously being a high leverage reliever. And he named off a couple of possible targets. Felix Bautista of the Orioles, Mason Miller of the Athletics, Kenley Jansen from the Angels, Kyle Finnegan of the Nationals, Aroldis Chapman of the Red Sox, and David Bednar of the Pirates. His favorite is Felix Bautista from the Baltimore Orioles. Names we've discussed before. Is there a favorite? Is your favorite Felix Bautista? And do you think he nailed it there? And do you think the Phillies will go after one of them?
Well, Bautista's an interesting one. Obviously Baltimore was having a terrible season and looked like they were going to be in prime sell mode. And all of a sudden, Baltimore has played a little bit better the last 2 weeks here. So you wonder if that puts them off the sellers. I mean, look, we still have almost 2 months until to the trade deadline, right? So the Orioles, who were, quite frankly, I don't know what the numbers were at the beginning of the year, the betting odds. I have to imagine they were one of the favorites to win the World Series, I have to imagine. Yeah. And now this is a team that is like literally floundered all season long in last place, but they have won 7 out of 10, and all of a sudden they're only 12 games under 500, which 12 games under 500, but in the American League, that actually puts them in the wild card mix a little bit here. They're only 8.5. Now, 8.5 is still pretty far, but still, they have moved themselves back into the race. So Bautista, of the guys you mentioned, he would be the guy that interests me probably the most. But are the Orioles interested in the trade? Now, the one thing with the Orioles is they need starting pitching in the worst way. Would they say, we'll take Mick Abel for Bautista? That would be something that you would, probably have to consider. Mason Miller's name comes up a lot. Kenley Jansen, probably not all that interested in giving up much against Jansen. I think he's one of them closers probably at the end of the line. Kyle Finnegan from the Nationals, he's been a great closer, but I would imagine if the Nationals, the Phillies probably don't want to trade a guy like Mick Abel in the division, I would imagine, and get stuck facing him all those times. Who was the other? Bednar.
Bednar, yeah.
I'm not giving up Mick Abel or.
And what about Chapman from Boston? You get Aroldis Chapman here. I mean, I know he's a little older, but he can still throw. He can still hum. Mike Chapman's an interesting name in there. Bautista. What's fascinating about that whole situation with the Orioles is the Orioles, they have a young team.
Yeah.
A lot of people were excited about them, especially heading into this year as maybe a possible World Series contender. They have floundered completely. They just have no starting pitching. Bautista is interesting because you have control of him through 2027. So you have him for a couple of years, and that doesn't hurt if you have a little bit of team control there. He's got 12 saves on the year. He's an interesting one. And by the way, they've made 18 trades with the Orioles over the past 2 years, it feels like. So, I mean, there's a relationship there. They've made deals with them last year. Why don't you take one of their relievers instead of giving them one? I mean, maybe Ranger Suarez. Maybe you move Ranger Suarez for a Bautista. I know he's expiring, but they could re-sign him.
Yeah, that's the problem there is the fact that I don't think the Orioles want a free agent. They don't want to have to worry about him walk. Now, what is Bautista's contract situation?
It's through 2027. That is when you have him till.
Okay, so I would think that's attractive to Philadelphia, that he doesn't walk out the door. So you could probably – that's one where if you like Bautista enough, then you consider, I guess, do we need bullpen pitching that bad that we would consider trading Abel because we have control of Bautista through 2027? That would be one that you would probably consider.
Yeah.
Bednar – not a lot of interest there. He's kind of they sent him to the minors not too long ago. This season, by the way, they sent him to the minors. I mean, he, to me, is kind of a journeyman. We went through this last year. I don't want a closer from a team that generally is not a good team. Now, Bautista has been the closer for that team that has been good the last couple of years. So that's a little bit of a different situation. He has pitched in higher leverage pressure situations. Bednar has the next game with a high leverage will be his first.
Yeah. By the way, a little bit of a breaking news nugget here. I gotta wheel in here. According to Matt Gelb of The Athletic, an MRI showed a stress reaction in Aaron Nola's right rib cage. Rob Thompson said Nola will not throw for at least 2 weeks, a rather significant setback that probably means he doesn't return until after the All-Star break.
All right, so that's interesting because I had said before I don't know, if he's going to be back because it was oblique was what they were saying before. That's a problem. Now this, so you're getting to the point now where This is going to become – I don't know if this makes things cleaner or messier. You have Abel, who's taking the Nola starts right now, okay?
Yep.
Let's say Nola's ready to come back after the All-Star break. Does he just slide right back in there? Most likely. What if Abel is pitching so well and then Painter's still not up here? Or did Painter get called up in the time before Nola? I don't know that this makes things easier or not.
I don't know either. And what do you do at Ranger? Like now, because Ranger's been a guy that's been floated out there as a trade possibility, a trade candidate, right? What does that mean? You got to hang on to him now for the rest of the season. So you're not going to get anything back for an expiring contract for a guy who's probably going to leave and get a big contract somewhere. Mm-hmm. So that makes it really interesting heading into that trade deadline. I mean, the Nola injury, that's a factor now. It's a big factor now heading into that deadline because you don't know what he's going to be like when he gets back.
Yeah, I mean, the Nola news, and by the way, that just came down, a couple minutes ago?
Yep.
All right, so that there from Rob Thompson, who's talking with the media, that there puts the Phillies for the next 2 months. You would imagine. How long did he say?
Until after the All-Star break.
So okay,
he's
beginning of June
for 2 weeks. Yeah,
right. So the All-Star break is early June,
early
July. Excuse me. The trade deadline is at the end of July.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're still talking. I think the All-Star game is actually, I think it's like July 8th, somewhere in that range. Is it the 8th or the 15th?
It's early, mid-July.
Yeah.
So you got a couple of weeks before the deadline, but I mean, right there, that's cutting it close because now you're going to see he's got to take a couple starts to get back. I mean, it's going to take him a few weeks to get back. I don't think they're going to ramp him up and have him throw 8 innings when he comes back. You know what I mean? So that's a tough one. That's a tough setback because all you keep hearing from Nola is it's a setback, it's a setback, it's a setback. Not great if you're the Phillies.
Not great, but at least you now have some clarity in terms of a timeline. So now you know, hey, Mick Abel, you're pitching for the next month. Like you get to start. Now Abel's pitching tonight. By the way, I think Painter is also pitching tonight for Lehigh Valley. And the news on Painter is very interesting in that he is pitching tonight and then will pitch on regular 4 days rest on the 5th day. This will be the first time that he does that since he's returned.
They're ramping him up. Is he going to throw all off speed again, working on that slider? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the Phillies shake things out with their pitching rotation. All right, before I get out of here, it is football at 4. I got to talk a little bit of football right here, Mike. I mean, I know I love my baseball, but we got to talk a little bit of football before I get out of here, leading into football at 4:30 today with Kaplan. Listen, Chris Sims put out his top 10 quarterbacks again. And somehow, some way, Jalen Hurts found himself in a lower position than his list last year, okay? He has Jalen Hurts as the 10th best quarterback in the NFL. And he's got Baker Mayfield ahead of him, C.J. Stroud, Matthew Stafford, Jaden Daniels, just to name a few. Is that a correct assessment of Jalen Hurts to have those quarterbacks ahead of him? And would you take those quarterbacks ahead of Jalen Hurts, Mike?
No, I would not take Matthew Stafford. His age would kind of throw me off there. C.J. Stroud disappointed me last year. So, no, I would not take C.J. Stroud over Hurts. Who else?
Justin Herbert is at 8. Stroud's at 7. Mayfield's at 9.
I mean, Mayfield, whenever he's played Hurts, has beaten him almost every single time, it feels like.
True.
But, no, I feel like I would not. Me personally would not take them. Is it egregious if you're simply saying one guy won the Super Bowl, the other guy did not? But that goes into a whole nother conversation. Oh, well, you taking Trent Dilfer, he won a Super Bowl. You know, all that stuff. I think like we just say, the guy won the Super Bowl, he's got to be better than this guy. Not necessarily. I mean, if you think the other guy's more talented, I think most people, I don't think it's egregious to say that you think that Justin Herbert's more talented than Jalen Hurts. I mean, the other guys, I don't think there's a guy on that list that you're like, that's egregious. The only thing that's egregious about it is that Hurts has won a Super Bowl. Now, Stafford has won a Super Bowl. The other guys have not.
Now, though, I would take Hurts over Stafford right now. Still, I would take Hurts as a guy I would want as my quarterback over Matt Stafford. And C.J. Stroud took a step back last year. And Baker has really gotten himself into a great role in Tampa Bay. I'm still taking Jalen Hurts over a Baker Mayfield at this point. Herbert, I don't mind. Daniels, we saw the talent last year, but it's only been 1 year.
I think
Hurts has to be way higher than that. He went back. How do you go from 9 to 10 on your list after he wins the Super Bowl? That's crazy.
It is kind of crazy. I don't agree with the list. I don't think it's egregious, though. Like, if it's beauty's in the eye of each beholder, man. If you think Baker Mayfield is on the Eagles and he makes this passing game better, so be it.
I don't know how you go backwards after winning the Super Bowl. That was what was egregious to me overall. All right, Mike. 3-pack of Nuggets at 4:00 today. Changed it up a little bit. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. The Nuggets are back in its normal time spot tomorrow at 4:30 right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. What do you think of the unsportsmanlike debate today? So did you see this whole thing with Clayton Kershaw and the Cardinals?
Yes.
So Kershaw said, weak sauce. They've been doing that for years. So the Cardinals put the highlight of him giving up the home run to Matt Adams in 2014. I didn't realize they ran it on a loop and just kept playing it over and over and over again for how long? Like 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, that's a little much. If you're going to play it on a loop, that's a little bit much. But I don't have a problem with it. I just think running it on a loop, that's a little excessive.
Right, like he got Kershaw, he got a little, he was a little sensitive about.
Yeah, sorry. He doesn't need to be sensitive. Grow up. You've been in the majors. You got a World Series ring. Relax, okay?
Right, like you're one of the most accomplished pitchers of the era.
You can't let that bother you.
No,
You
exactly.
can't let that bother you.
That's what I'm saying. Like, listen, we all know he's one of the best pitchers of our era. Yeah. Like, the Cardinals are just kind of a little gamesmanship. I get it. Playing it on a loop is a little egregious.
That's a little excessive.
Yeah.
That's a little excessive.
But he doesn't need to comment on it.
No.
Just have fun with it.
Just feel like, whatever.
You just say, hey, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you're thinking of me. The fact that you're thinking of me makes me feel great.
Be like I'm living rent free in their minds. That's all. Just rent free. Rent free.
Exactly. You're putting my picture up on the big screen. I'm living rent free.
Free promo right there for Kershaw. Yeah. I mean, everyone knows Clayton Kershaw's one of the best ever. So, all right.
All right, we'll do it again tomorrow. There you go. They're brought to you by the Nuggets. Are brought to you by the Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. See you, Nuggets.
All right, see you.
All right, Knicks Nuggets, of course, tomorrow. Back in its normal time slot, 4:30 on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video streaming on the Twitter X platform at Mike Gill Show. Subscribe and be a part of the show. Coming up next, it is today's edition of Football at 4. Adam Kaplan was at Eagles practice today, and he will fill us in on everything that he saw next right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, Adam Kaplan from the Inside the Birds podcast is here today. A little later than normal. Eagles practice today. OTAs, mandatory. Everybody showed. We'll get into that and more right now with Adam Kaplan from the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can get on all podcasting platforms. Just search Inside the Birds as Adam Kaplan joins me now, fresh off the practice field for OTAs as the Eagles wrap up their one-day mandatory. Everybody there, right? Everybody accounted for, Adam?
Yeah, Mike. Yeah. Landon Dickerson worked with coming off the knee surgery. A lot of guys who are coming off surgery, whether they were drafted or they've been here before, there are probably 5 or 6 guys not working because they're taking mental reps because they're not clear to practice. But it's your typical OTA practice. These are passing camps, very late in work. But coaches will tell you, Mike, they're so important for development. They don't read into anything like the media or the fans do. That doesn't mean anything to them. This is the teaching phase. They're running a lot of concepts like for timing, and they're trying to see where players are from a mental standpoint. That stuff's pretty important, by the way. Not making mental errors.
Yeah, one of the storylines as we get to training camp, which will be the next phase here, is all the different battles that they have. They got corner, they got safety, they got defensive end, they've got defensive tackle, they've got right guard, and none of them really play out here in these OTAs here. But one of the things that Nick Sirianni did mention was in terms of the right guard spot, hey, that's one that we're going to have to find out when we get the pads on, which is what's going on with most of these things. But do you think this is a type of day where anybody kind of raises eyebrows or kind of gets on the radar at all?
Yeah, Mike, though I've told you for a number of years, depth charts mean next to nothing. I'm going to give you one that I do believe does. And it's funny you bring up Kenyon Green and Tyler Steen in that right guard position. I know we're going to have to see for sure, but Nick said what he said. But remember what happened with Tyler Steen 2 years ago. He was never given the opportunity to compete for the starting right guard job. Why? Because they handed it to Cam Jurgens. Let's not forget. And then, obviously, he would later move to center. Jurgens said he would take over the starting center job, and he just got a contract extension. So, Kenyon Green, why am I bringing that up? Because Kenyon Green is running with threes. He has, as we understand, most, if not all, of camp. So, now, could something happen in training camp where Green works his way up, getting worked with the 2s and 3s, and shocks the world? Sure, of course. That could happen with any player. We're just telling you where it is. We're in June here. We're not in late July, early August when it really means something. But got to point that out. That stuff, covering these for 28 years, I make these mental notes, which surprises me in my notes. It's not just observations. Anyone can make them. It's what does it mean of covering this business for almost 3 decades? Actually, technically it is 3 decades. I started covering the Eagles in the late 90s. But when you really look at it, this is a trade they made, so they're going to give him a chance. I'm not saying he's not going to make the team, but he's got to make up for lost time here, Kenyon Green. He's a guy that, look, remember, the Texans didn't want him. There's a reason for it. He didn't perform there. He was a former first-round pick who the Eagles really liked. So he's got to perform, Mike, when we get to training camp.
All right, Adam Kaplan, Football at 4, taking a look at some of the little nuggets today over at Eagles training camp. You got Adoree Jackson, Kaylee Ringo. Obviously, Jair Alexander's name came up a lot yesterday, but do either one of those two give the Eagles reasons to have to look outside the organization? Is Alexander a guy that you think they would have on their radar, or are they happy with what they got?
Their plan has been all offseason, Mike, and I know plans could change, is to bring Ringo and Jackson to training camp and let them battle it out. That's everything we've understood. I know the Eagles typically, even Mike, I'll just tell you what agents have told me and general managers have told me. It's not just Howie. The Eagles personnel department will call. They'll check into kind of what a player wants. They might call the agent, hey, just out of curiosity, what's he looking for? They want to know what the market is. I'd be very surprised if they didn't talk to John Thornton, who, by the way, John Thornton who's Jair Alexander's agent. John played for the Titans and the Bengals. He's actually from Philadelphia.
He went to West Virginia.
Yeah, I know John a little bit. I'd be very surprised if someone doesn't call John just to see what Jair wants. But what we said on our show is this. One thing we've learned from covering this business for so long, Jeff and I, You never want to pass up an upgrade. Well, Jair Alexander is obviously way better than these other two guys, but there's a reason why he's on the street. Major injury history, Mike. Major. Oh, he missed 20 games over the last 2 seasons. 3 out of the last 4 years have been major. Is that injury problems? And then you got the immaturity. So you have to. And we talked about this on today's show. We actually devoted a chunk of it, which you could find, on YouTube or any podcasting platform. We went into it and we discussed it. He's clearly better than what they had, but there's a reason why he's out there. See, the thing with Jair Alexander is he's never going to make that $17.5 million he was due total. He might make $7 or $8 million. But remember, Mike, the Eagles traded away Gardner Johnson. They didn't want to pay him his $8.5 million. As we first reported in mid-March, the Eagles are going to trim cash, major cash. They've done that. They're not looking to add cash right now, and that's the reason why we don't see it right now with Alexander. You never say never, which we've said for 8 years. He's better than what they have, but again, do you really want to bring in a guy here that has had major problems? He's coming off knee surgery. That's another problem.
Yesterday we did a Mosher mailbag. We took listener questions. One of them was about which receiver, other than AJ or Devontae, does he trust the most? Did you get a chance to see the receivers, and did anybody kind of go up the depth chart for you at today's OTAs?
I mean, not in one practice. It's kind of what we knew. Jahan Dotson's the unquestioned 3. That's not in question. He's got good interior quickness, runs well after the catch. Now, as we reported when the Eagles made the trade, here's why Washington traded him. There were like 3 or 4 problems they had with him. Nothing. It's all from football. It has nothing to do with off the field. He's a good person off the field. It's competitiveness. It's mental toughness. There's a lot of things they just had a problem with. Now here, kind of righted himself. Now, but I'm going to give you a player. It's not about trust. It's a guy that's going to get a real chance here to make the team. And this guy, Harris Marshall, we talked about him on last week's show. In fact, we had our under-the-radar player show on offense. Harris Marshall, when they line up an inside and outside receiver, he's more of an outside receiver. Not really a slot receiver, but he can line up inside. But he's got really good length. He's way faster, Mike, than Johnny Wilson. Way faster. You can't even compare the two in terms of juice. Watch him, folks. I mean, I know most listeners won't get a chance to go to training camp unless you go to the one practice at the link. But he's a guy, when I go to their camp, and I'll probably be at 8 or 9 practices, I am really going to watch him in training camp because this guy can move. I know why the Panthers cut him, Mike. They had issues with him for competitive reasons. They thought he didn't bring it all the time. They kind of fed up with him. But this guy could play, Mike, and he's getting another chance on his 4th team here to make a roster.
All right, last week we did some under-the-radar guys. Smile Mondin, a draft pick there. I would imagine he's got opportunities at least to get on the field on a day like today.
Oh, yeah, well, he worked with the ones. He rotated in with Trot Jr. And look, Mike, the thinnest position on defense by far is inside backer. There's no question. They have only 5 of them that are healthy. That's not enough. In fact, 2 of them are undrafted free agents. So, that's a light position, as we discussed on today's show. That would be a concern. Our show today, by the way, addresses concerns on defense heading into training camp, coming out of their off season. Inside backer, it's not just the depth, which is everybody knows that. I'm not telling anything that people don't know. It's kind of like, okay, well, after Bond, who shocked the world and became the best inside backer in football that season, what do they really have? They have Trotter, who they really do like, who we were told did very well from a mental standpoint behind the scenes, but he's a smaller linebacker. He's had very few snaps at the NFL level. We don't know a lot about him, Mike. That's the problem. Inexperience, other than Bond. And Mike, what would they do if Bond got hurt?
Yeah,
that would be a catastrophe.
One of the questions for Jeff in the mailbag yesterday was: Are the Eagles? I don't want to say. I guess the way he raised the question, the listener did, was: have they lost confidence in Nakobe Dean? But I think it was more like: have they lost confidence that he can come back and be the same player?
Yeah, no, they love him, man. He became a leader last season, and unfortunately, he suffered a devastating knee injury. It's one of the worst you could suffer as a torn patellar tendon. It's really a 9-month injury, and usually you don't feel right for a year and a half to 2 years. He's to the side, Mike. We have no idea when he comes back whether he'll be able to contribute or not. It's just unfortunate. He could have been here, Mike, fact, he was a guy, had he not gotten hurt, probably would have had his contract extended, but oh well, it is what it is. It's a shame. So it's just, and Mondin, Mike, he's got an athletic build. He's today's linebacker, 225, over 6'2". He's at Howie's favorite school, Georgia. It's like their adopted school, Mike, Georgia. It's really remarkable.
Yeah.
Do you know how many years for decades they ignored that school? It's really remarkable to me.
Well, the whole conference, for the most part, it felt like they were just like going everywhere. But
what happened?
And that is one thing too. Is that you're out in the practice field, you get a chance for the first time to see the size. A guy like Smile Mondin and see how he fits in size wise.
Yeah, that's Mike. It's funny you brought that up. I'm looking at my notes here. Jahan Dotson, medium build. Gabe Hall, long, and Mondin, thin, angular. Makuba didn't look as thin as I thought he would be. He's 190 plus. But we're not going to know what his real build is until they're at training camp and they're in pads. Until they wear a little bit heavier armor, as they say. So, yeah. And by the way, Gabe Hall got some work with the twos today. I don't read too much into it, but he didn't make the team last year. He never ran on the twos last year. So we'll look at that in training camp. That's something I want to note because, Mike, he's got incredible length, Gabe Hall. He was an undrafted free agent, but they gave a huge practice squad contract to last year.
Adam Kaplan, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Tuesday edition. He'll be back on Friday, and, of course, we got plenty to take a look at as the betting season will be here and all that good stuff on Football at 4. Adam, appreciate it, man.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, Adam leaving the NovaCare complex as the Eagles wrap up the OTAs. When we come back, we're going to be at Pig Dog on Friday with the Eagles Autism Foundation. We have the details on that next.
blast.
All right, Kyle. Yeah, we got the Pig Dog Beach Bars where we will be broadcasting live. You might see some players spotting bartending inside Pig Dog. They might be working as a game operator. Don't sell Swoop, who's probably equally as popular as the players, will be bebopping around. The cheerleaders will be up there as well. Also, as you mentioned, a donation percentage of sales for every ticket sold to the Eagles Autism Foundation, supporting the mission to raise funds for autism research and care programs, in which Maurice Pierre is a big part of for this event on Friday. So you're partnering with the Eagles on that. And, of course, this is something that they have been a part of. It's great that they have brought it down into our neck of the woods. And you said it's open to everybody. They can walk around. 11 o'clock in the morning is when this kind of starts, and then it's an all-day event?
Yeah. So, the Eagles portion of the event, they're probably out, 5 o'clock or so. But then for those who purchase the admission portion of it, the water park closes at 5, but the pier's open until 11 that night. So the wristbands for that will be good all night for the rides as long as people want to be around.
Awesome. All right, Kyle Morey, the manager of food and beverage up at Maurice Piers. It's a summer long. We're going to be listening and watching to see what's happening down at Maurice all summer long. And, of course, it's the place to be. It is one of the most well-known amusement destinations in our area down in Wildwood. And we will be there on Friday for the Eagles Autism Foundation at Pig Dog Beach Bar. And, of course, the water park and everything with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm imagining when you get word of when this all kind of gets broken out there, who's going to be there, you guys will be posting it somewhere on your social medias?
Yeah, so the best way to find out as quickly as possible would be just following us on Instagram. It's just Maurice Pierce there. But we'll put it in every we'll announce it in every facet that we have access to. We want to make sure that message goes loud and far, and that everybody knows who's going to be here, and help just raise the excitement for Friday.
All right, Kyle. Well, we will see you on Friday. We're happy to be a part of this event and appreciate you giving our listeners more insight on what they can expect at the event on Friday.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you this weekend.
Absolutely. Kyle Morey, the manager of food and beverage at Maurice Piers. Of course, Raging Waters, the whole Pig Dog event. We will be there this Friday. It's the Eagles Autism event at Pig Dog. And make an appointment to stop out and see the Sports Bash, and for a good cause. Maurice Pierre kicking off the summer event, benefiting the Eagles Autism Foundation this Friday, the Sports Bash Live. We'll find out which Philadelphia Eagles player will be a part of the event and the show, and we'll have that for you when we know, right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3. All right, once again, thanks to Kyle Morey from Maurice Piers, which will be live at Pig Dog. Never been there. Looking forward. First time at Pig Dog Beach Bar. Don't forget, coming up 5 o'clock hour, we got plenty more to come. Phil's getting ready for Game 2 of the series against the Cubs. Last night it was Buntgate. Buntarama. How do you have 4 bunts last night? Otto Kemp laying down bunts. Phillies sacrificing guys all over the place. Somewhere Joe Smith over at Mainland smiling ear to ear with all the bunts that were laid down to win that game last night for the Phillies. But did that Phillies win and how they won the game make you feel better about the team big picture, long term? We'll get into that and more here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video streaming on the X platform and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show.
Flounder season is gearing up, and the one stop for everything you need is the bait and tackle shop at Utch's Marina in historic Cape May. Come to Utch's for a huge selection of flounder spinning and conventional rods and combos for the boat or the surf, with top name brands available like Penn, Tsunami, Ocean Max, Shimano, and more. Only at Utch's Marina, your home away from home at the foot of the bridge in Cape May. Check out the half-off sale going on right now. Live bait, frozen bait, rods and reels, lures too. Visit Utch's today. Bait and tackle shop, open daily.
I want to learn how to cook, but I keep ordering takeout.
Accomplishing goals is hard, but when your goal is to learn a new language, Babbel makes it easy. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel will help you start having conversations in as little as 3 weeks. Words and phrases you'll actually use. So when someone asks, "How's your French going?" you can say,
Babbel facilite grandement l'apprentissage d'une nouvelle langue.
Now save up to 50% on your Babbel subscription at Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
South Jersey's official play-by-play home of the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers.
At 0 point would I ever consider not being a fan of the team.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey.
Just after 5, driving you home. Thanks to Kyle Morey from Pig Dog. We'll be there on Friday for the Eagles autism event, and you could be a part of it. A lot of the fun on Friday will be just being out and about in Wildwood on a summer Friday. Hopefully we get good weather. It looks like the weather should be good by the time we get to Friday. Looking forward to that. As Kyle said, they have not announced which players will be there, but when we find out, we will share it with you here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. By the way, tomorrow is a Stump the Sports Geek Wednesday, and we're going to be giving tickets away to the big Pig Dog Eagles Autism event. You heard him mention all the ticket proceeds will go towards the Eagles Autism Foundation. Tomorrow, we will be giving away tickets for that event during Stump the Sports Geek. A lot of pressure on that, Josh, there to answer the questions now, because someone's going to get to meet some Eagles players because of you.
Pressure, but I embrace it. I'm like Paul George. I accept the pressure. I embrace it.
Paul George was the name he went with there, Rob.
Wow, that's bold. He had the world was his oyster, man, and he went Paul George there.
Yeah, he could have been like Tyrese Halliburton, right? Halliburton's kind of the name right now associated with the pressure.
I mean, pick a card, any card, except the Paul George card. I don't know. I don't know.
Bad job out of you right there.
What do I know?
All right, we got another edition of Ryder Side today on a 5 o'clock hour Sports Bash Tuesday drive home. And breaking into a lot. Phils won last night. They've lost 9 out of 10. They win. They lose to the Pirates. They get swept. They beat the second-best team in the National League. Do we feel like everything is back to normal? Are you sighing that one? Because right now, at Mike Gill Show, people have been voting all day long at the poll question. Did last night's win by the Phillies over the Cubs make you feel any better about this season? 75% said, nah, still too many issues. 25% said, absolutely last night helped me feel better.
You feel better for a second. It's a relief valve for just a moment. For me, and let's see if you sigh at this point. For me, if I'm looking at any type of impact from last night, it's hopefully for Marsh. Like, let's see if this can help Marsh turn things around. And that will maybe, in effect, indirectly help the Phillies turn things around. I don't know. But for me, no, this is what, June 10th, right? You and I brought this up yesterday, MG. There's way too much freaking baseball ahead of us, which is a good thing. It's also a weird thing. We don't know how to evaluate things, right? But for me, if I'm looking at any type of hopefulness and positivity that I can pull from last night, it's maybe this helps Marsh sigh in a positive way. A big, okay, maybe the monkey's off his back. But it was a win that they needed, and they fought, and they figured it out at home in extra innings. But do you sigh at it possibly helping Brandon Marsh?
No, I actually think that's a good point, is that he's one guy who has just not had any good – he had that one little stretch when he came off the injured list. He hit for like a week and a half, and then he completely has, crashed and burned again. And it's to the point where he's becoming an unplayable guy. But, yes, I do see what you're saying. He came in last night, had 2 hits, including the big game winner with the bases loaded. Hey, listen – it's bases loaded, nobody out. And this is a team that had that same situation earlier in the game, bases loaded, nobody out, and got 1 run off of that. It was on a ground ball out. So they didn't even get a base hit in that situation. So for him to get the hit that he did, yes, I will agree with you. I am not sighing at your point there, Ryan Rothstein. I'll give you 2 points.
Wow. That's awesome, man. I appreciate the 2. Utah give me 2. Now, I don't think it means – listen, I like I said, it's nice they got a win. They needed a win. They fought extra innings. All great. I don't take much from it, but I'm sure you touched on this already, but how do you look at that game? Not Marsh, but overall, do you say, wow, this is going to catapult them? I don't think you're going to say that, but –
it's a fair question. I think the one thing whoops, I hit the wrong button there. I think the one thing with the Marsh thing, it's a valid point to say, hey, could that have got him going? The rest of the guys, look, you had 14, 15 hits last night, and as Topper pointed out, he had a bunt twice to get a couple runs home because they couldn't get anything going, even with all the hits. Couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. Bases loaded, hit a ground ball. Bases loaded, after the ground ball, you hit into a double play. Later on in the game, you get a runner on base, you pinch hit, Stott, he hits into a double play. So you had runners on base all night long. Double plays, picked off first base, trying to extend for a double, get thrown out at second. So I don't know that I feel like, hey, all of a sudden this team's offense is starting to mesh and gel. Look, they didn't think so. You know why? Tonight they changed the lineup up. They took Stott out of the leadoff hot spot. They moved him to the 5-hole. Yeah. I don't know if I like him hitting in the 5-hole, but they finally got him out of the leadoff spot.
Yeah, I don't like him in the leadoff even more, so I'm fine with that for now. But you're right, still don't love him in the 5-hole. The failed extending to doubles, by the way, was so frustrating. It's like, what the heck are you doing? I know it was still a nice play out in the field, nice throw, cut the ball off, quickly, but still, my goodness, that was frustrating. May have seen the best bunt ever, by the way, by Kemp. That was awesome, right? Like, you forget what a bunt looks like sometimes. I wanted to bring this point up yesterday. I'll bring it up now. Fire the hitting coach? Is that an overreaction to what we've seen over the past couple of weeks, or is that possibly on the docket for the Phillies?
I feel like firing position coaches are always the overreaction to, hey, we really think these guys do more than they do. You're looking like, wait, what do you mean by this? Like, do we really?
Yeah.
Like, I always feel like it's like blame Kevin. First off, Kevin Long is never getting fired. Like, he is close with Harper, he's close with Schwarber, and he's close with Turner. They're the only 3 guys on the team that can hit. So
maybe even more reason to fire him. Unfortunately, I never root for that.
In a world of being fair, maybe you say we bring in dual hitting coaches, because there are teams that have had two different hitting coaches, because not everybody responds the same way to a hitting coach. So you have this guy, maybe Kevin Long, continues to work with Schwarber, Harper, Turner, and then you bring in somebody else to maybe try to work with the other group of guys.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the hitting coach, it's more of it's a group, it's a team philosophy on how we're going to approach our offense and our overall strategy at the plate with our bats. Right, so it's not just like an off-season trainer. Like some listeners might look at it as, I'm hiring Mike Gill to work with my son one-on-one hitting. It's not that. It's like, all right, this is our team approach at the plate here, which is a little bit, different.
Well, right. They put a game plan together where they'll say, hey, tonight, this is who's pitching. This is how we want to approach this guy tonight. We want to swing early in counts. We can get on him early. He's going to throw a lot of first-pitch fastballs. You want to jump in on that. Or he might say, hey, we want to make this guy throw pitches. We want to be really patient tonight. We want to have, get this guy's pitch count up, get into their bullpen. We want to try to, there are different philosophies night to night how you want to approach. Now, there's an overlining of philosophy for the organization. Hey, we want to be a team that specializes in going the other way, or we want to be a team that, all these things. So, listen, I will say this. I'm not working with professionals by any stretch of the imagination, but you can drill a message into someone's head until you're blue in the face, and then they get in that box, and the whole world changes.
Sure.
You know, so...
I don't know how much you deal with that at that level, with the Phillies, but I'm sure you deal with it and maybe in smaller degrees and levels, but yeah, absolutely.
Well, and it's hard. It's like, okay, you think that he's telling Nick Castellanos to go up there and bail out and swing at sliders every single time you see one, but he, as the hitting coach, can say to his blue in the face, they're gonna just fire slider after slider after slider at you. You have to be disciplined. He does not have the power, though, to bench that guy. If he does, you know what I'm saying?
No,
his salary,
it's just an extra set of eyes, really.
His salary suggests that there's nothing I can do to penalize you for not executing the plan that I've come up with.
Can you fill in my memory that I'm having trouble with? But back in the Charlie Manuel days, wasn't there a firing of the hitting coach that supposedly catapulted them? Did Charlie Manuel take over that position?
Charlie Manuel took over as the hitting coach, but those were some bad Phillies teams. That was I think, on a Gabe Kapler staff where he kind of just took over at the end of the year.
I thought there was something in the World Series era of the Phillies where there was a firing of the hitting coach, and it was, we looked back on it as a key decision. I mean, maybe my memory is completely incorrect with that, but I don't know.
I think when Manuel took over as the hitting coach, but I do not think that was a team that was in 2019. Yeah, it was a Kapler year. It was not a year that they made a firing, hired, because Manuel was just on the staff as a special instructor, and then they just made him the hitting coach for the rest of the season there. What do you got?
Yeah, so Manuel came on board in August of 2019. After they fired the hitting coach, they made Charlie Manuel the hitting coach for the rest of the year. 2019 was also the last time the Phillies lost 9 out of 10 games.
There you go. By the way, the Texas Rangers have fired their hitting coach earlier this year, and I don't think it's helped them all that much.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's not always the answer. Sometimes you just stink.
I will say I wouldn't be adverse if they did what I said. You have Kevin Long. There's a familiarity with the key guys on your team, Harper, Schwarber, and Turner, and it's working for them. Those guys are hitting. Hey, we like to keep working with him, but maybe the message for us is different from Stott and Bohm and and those guys. But
I think that's more of a reason to fire him. And I hate to sound like that, but okay, he's close with Harper. He's close with Schwarber. If you're trying to send any type of message, if you're trying to light any type of fire under their asses, you fire a guy they really like and care about, right? It's sort of a similar approach you make with the head coach and managers at times in professional sports.
Well, the retort to that would be you're trying to light the fire under the ass of the only 3 guys that are hitting?
No, the other guys, and maybe just you piss off. It's a message. It's like, listen, this is unacceptable. as a team. It's unacceptable. Just because Harper's doing well, listen, I could be the hitting coach. Harper's going to be Bryce Harper.
Which is why I think instead of just firing him, I would bring in someone to work in conjunction with them. Don't tick off the guys who are producing for you. Keep those guys happy, but let the other guys know, listen, whatever you're doing. Now, I don't Dave Gallagher has been on our show a ton. He was a hitting coach. You talk to guys like that, and it's like, listen, you can only do so much as the hitting coach. Like to think that these guys, which team is it? Like Barry Bonds is the hitting coach for somebody's team, or he was. I don't know if he still is.
Yeah, I think, is it with the Giants?
It might be the Giants, but Barry Bonds was the hitting coach. There's nobody on the planet that knows more about hitting than Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
Just putting Barry Bonds in as the hitting coach isn't going to make the team all of a sudden miraculously start to hit at Barry Bonds levels.
Bonds is the hitting coach for the Giants, because I remember watching him as a guest on the podcast All the Smoke with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. And he talked about being a hitting coach, and he was like, listen, I'm there for the guys when they need me. He's like, a lot of my job is not me going to them and saying, hey, here's what's wrong. But if a guy's struggling, he comes to me, I'll say, okay, here's a routine we can do for the next 3 weeks. And we'll try and see if this helps you. You can take my advice or you can leave it. So just a little added insight with that.
Bonds was the hitting coach for the Miami Marlins in 2016. He was fired at the end of the year because they considered his tenure, according to this article from the Miami Herald, a failure. Bonds is currently a hitting instructor for the Giants in spring training.
Okay, so he's not the hitting coach anymore. He's just an instructor. But I think Mark McGwire was a hitting coach at one point.
Dodgers.
That you've had some high-profile guys be hitting coaches, and that doesn't mean I just feel like we always want to point to the hitting coach, fire the hitting coach, the hitting coach. People text in all the time. Kevin Long has to go. I mean, most of these people have no clue what Kevin Long does.
Right. No, it's fair, and I agree with all of that. It'd be a very marginal move, and it's certainly, I think you won me over. It'd be a little bit idiotic if Harper and those guys are that close. But I'm just trying to spitball anything that can maybe light a fire under them, that can maybe redirect this team in any way, shape, or form. But how we started this conversation, listen, I know it's only June 10th, June 9th last night. Maybe that win last night does do exactly that for this team.
Ryan, if I could ask you a question really quick, because you mentioned about lighting the fire under these guys. Why do they need a fire under them? Shouldn't they be professional athletes and find it in themselves? Shouldn't the players themselves be that guy? Why do they need a coach to do it?
They don't need a coach. I'm just trying to think of something that could help light a fire under them, right? But I think you're also right, Josh. Yes, they are professionals. They should be able to figure things out. But when you lose 9 of 10, when you get swept by the Pirates for the first time since 2015, things are pretty bad. And sometimes the organization needs to step in and try and help you redirect yourself to get back on track.
We're also dealing with a team with a lot of players who we have watched have a lot of success. So when they're not succeeding to the level that we're used to, you start to question, well, I've seen them do it, so it's got to be his fault that he's not doing it. Somebody texted in. Now, I can't verify this, but maybe, Josh, you could look this up. This is from Phil in Brigantine. He said he read somewhere earlier this year that Long wanted JT to adjust his leg kick. JT wasn't having it. What's Long supposed to do? Bottom line, certain players do what they want. Now, I don't know that that's an accurate story or not. I mean, we can certainly find if the article does exist out there. But, yeah, you can ask guys to tweak this, try that, do this, do that. But you're also talking with guys who are to the highest
level. They have to be willing to tweak that. They have to be willing. I mean, they're the all-pros. JT is an all-pro level guy for a long time. He's not going to just tweak a major part of his approach at the plate because Kevin Long said so, right?
Well, and that's the thing. You are dealing with guys who have had a ton of success in their life and their career to get to that point. And then you're saying, hey, you got here because of what you're doing. Now I need you to change. And it doesn't always work. We've seen situations where the hitting coach or the philosophy of the organization has hurt a hitter. Look at Scott Kingery. They wanted him to hit with launch angle. Well, he was not a guy that was a successful swing for, and it basically ruined his career. So I don't know if that's so much the hitting coach or was more of an organizational philosophy, but maybe the hitting coach was on board with teaching that method of hitting.
Right. Yeah, it's a fine line. And I think the overall takeaway from this conversation is Kevin Long is not the answer for better or for worse, right? And I think Josh brings up a good point in his questioning, which is, we have a lot of all-stars. We have a lot of all-pro, air quote, guys on this Phillies team. Like, they should be able to figure this out. And if they can't, they're not title worthy. I think that's fair.
So in an article from Matt Gelb during spring training, JT Realmuto admitted to Gelb that Kevin Long had been trying to tell him to calm my leg kick for a couple years now. According to Matt Gelb, Kevin Long has been telling JT Realmuto that his leg kick has gotten higher every year and he needed to calm it down to fix the rhythm of his batting stance. JT Realmuto said, I spent 2 years not listening to him, and finally this offseason, I went back and looked at it and tried to correct it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And JT stinks this year.
It's tough. Is it fair to say it's like really tough to be so critical of a guy like JT Realmuto, a guy that's so valuable and has been such a warrior behind the plate? Like, as you build up your years, I would imagine your offense is going to decline.
No doubt.
See, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that because
which one would we rather have, Josh?
Think about it. Back in the day, catchers like Mike Piazza and Mike Staley, those guys, their knees and their back were shot, but they could still hit for years. This is like the opposite with JT Realmuto. How do you go from being
Hall of Famers, though? That's the minority. That's two guys. I hear you, but like the majority.
I can name more, but Mike Gill will turn off my microphone.
Mike Stanley's hardly a Hall of Famer, by the way.
Exactly. But he was a good DH for about 5 years. I can name Todd Zeile. I can name Mickey Tettleton.
So you think that majority of catchers, when they're in double-digit years in Major League Baseball, that we should expect a high level of offensive productivity while being the best defensive catcher in Major League Baseball as well?
Catcher's a hard one because generally catcher has always been a position that you don't get a lot of offense from. One of the things that separated Realmuto from the others is he was a very good defensive player and he was a solid offensive player. He wasn't a great offensive player, but he was for an offensive player to hit like 270 with 20 homers and he was a solid offensive player. And right now, he's struggling big time. Now, is he just struggling for the first 2 months of the season? And hey, the month of June is here, and he's going to turn it around. Maybe. I hope so. But last year, he was 30 points off of where he was the year before. He was 270 the year before. Last year, he went down to 240. And now this year, he's 30 points off of where he was the year before. So are we beginning to see the decline coming? Did we see it last year? And now we're just seeing it even at an advanced level this year. If you ask me, what do I think? I think Realmuto is declining offensively. Yes.
Yeah. Proof's in the pudding. I agree with you. But I think my point is there's bigger issues. There's bigger fish to fry. I'm not saying he gets a hall pass, but the dude is still unbelievable behind the plate and extremely valuable behind the plate.
Okay.
It's the other guys in the lineup that we need to be looking at and saying WTF.
Okay, so I would ask you this question, and I'm not obtuse to what JT brings to the team as a defensive catcher and calling the game and handling the staff. Mm-hmm. But I can make an argument that Marshawn throws just as well as he does at this point. He's throwing dudes out left and right as well.
Okay, so what's your point?
So my point is if Realmuto is not as valuable offensively that he used to be, and I can find another catcher that can throw guys out at a similar clip, is JT as valuable as he once was?
I don't know. I think it's a good point. It's a good question. I view JT as still a top catcher behind the plate in Major League Baseball. Is that a fair?
Yeah, I don't think he's. I don't think he's in the. I don't think. No, I'm sighing at that. I don't think he's in the top 10 anymore. As an offensive player, no. I think as throwing the ball, throwing guys out, all that stuff, yes. But in the world that we
MG, just defense. Forget the offense. Just as a actual catcher, and how important it is to be a leader and to call games and to throw guys out and do everything he does behind the plate, not offense. I still say he's a top 5 to 8 guy in Major League Baseball.
I don't know how to quantify that. I honestly don't. I can imagine, listen, I don't know, like the other guy, Marchand, just doesn't get enough of an opportunity to even know what kind of impact he has. I know the ERAs and yada yada when he pitches versus when Realmuto. Well, they've had Realmuto catching for him for the last 5 years. Of course, they're going to feel more comfortable with him. So I understand that aspect of it. My point is this. If you just took all that out of it and just said, hey, this guy throwing against this guy throwing, him blocking against this guy blocking, all that stuff, I would say with their offense, I don't know that Realmuto is that much more valuable than Marchand is at this stage of his career. Now, I hope I'm way wrong on that and that Realmuto, look, can he get up to 250 this year? If Realmuto gets from where he is now up to 250-ish with like a 300 on base percentage, then he probably had a pretty good second half of the year and made it like, hey, I just had a bad start to the season and I had a much bigger impact the second half of the year. Marchand just has not enough sample size to say. Now, by the way, his sample size is growing a little bit, and he has been a little bit more productive, since where he started the season. But right now, Realmuto's a 294 on base. Marchand's a 286. Realmuto's hitting 228, which is dreadful. Now, Marchand's only hitting 146. He's only had 41 at bats. That being said, Realmuto has 5 homers. Marchand has 1. So, Marchand just doesn't have a big enough sample size. But I would say defensively, Marchand's throwing out guys at a pretty high clip. When people try to steal on Marchand, it hasn't gone very good.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and it's a good point, and I'll be fair to myself and be a hypocrite because I agree with you. I don't know how I quantify JT. I feel like he's extremely valuable to this team as a catcher defensively, if just not looking at the offense and what he does for this team night in and night out. I still hold a lot of weight and value in a positive way to that, but I don't know how to quantify it.
Here's a question I would ask, okay? Are we holding on to the JT and those guys because we're comfortable with them, we remember how important they were, and we're unwilling to kind of move on and say, hey, you got to break somebody up from this group?
I maybe, but like what's the other option, Mike? Like, what's the other option? I never completely disagreed about, quote, running it back this year.
Well, okay, well then that's your opinion was you were okay with running it back, because a lot of people would say, listen, this team came up short, and you brought the same team back again. What did you think was going to happen? Well, we're watching what we think is going to happen. They're struggling in certain areas, and some of these guys are getting older, so we don't know if they're actually going to improve in the areas that they're struggling based on not their past history, but now their age.
Yes, all valid, but it's, once again, I say this a lot, and I hate myself when I say it. It's baseball. Like, it is baseball. It's the only sport that we can say that, MG, right? Like, it's the only sport. I think if you're Dombrowski, if you're this team, if you're Topper, you say, can we get to the playoffs, and can we have that stretch of time where we're clicking, right? That's it.
All right, we'll continue to get into that coming up on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN. Is there enough time for them to make a decision here on what they need to do next? Because we got news today on Aaron Nola, and we're going to share that news with you coming up next, plus the lineup. A little shake-up to the lineup, too. Are we sighing at this Phillies team? Well, the votes are coming in at Mike Gill Show, and you can continue to vote over there. At Mike Gill Show, vote right now. Did last night's win by the Phillies over the Cubs make you feel any better about this season, big picture? 75% said, nah, still too many issues. 25% said, absolutely, it made them feel better. Vote at Mike Gill Show, plus the update on Aaron Nola and the lineup. It's all coming up next. We got another segment of Rye or Cy on the Sports Bash. At 5:32, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Phils and Cubs, Mick Abel tonight. Colin Ray for the Cubs. That's your pitching matchup. The Phils lineup. They got Turner in the leadoff spot tonight, which is some news because they are facing a right-handed pitcher, which means Bryson Stott has been moved out of the leadoff spot. He is in the 5-hole tonight. And, of course, that means you got some changes everywhere else because Stott's in the 5-hole. Everybody bounces down one. You got Schwarber in the 2-hole. You've got Bohm hitting 3. You've got Castellanos hitting 4. So that's the Phillies lineup tonight. And then, of course, all of the lefties are in the lineup tonight. So Kepler's in the lineup and Marsh is in the lineup. So there you go. But the big news that just came down not too long ago is that Aaron Nola had another setback, Rye, and he looks like he will be out, reevaluated in another 2 weeks. Here's what Rob Thompson said just a little while ago.
Knowles had an MRI last night. He's got stress reaction in his right rib, so he's no throw for 2 weeks.
So do you no longer think it's from him being sick that he had that?
I have no idea because he doesn't really remember the moment that it happened. I think he just woke up one day and it was sore. Yeah, so the MRI confirmed it.
So you're looking at it at least a month, probably more than that for his return.
Yeah, I don't know the day of return, but I know he's not going to throw, not even going to play catch for 2 weeks.
All right, so he's not going to play catch for 2 weeks. Nothing like that. Doesn't even know when it happened. This is starting to get a little weird all of a sudden.
Yeah, this is, one thing that I've been bringing up year in and year out about this team is how long can we expect Wheeler and Nola and their availability year in and year out. I mean, Nola, this is a guy that's made at least 30 starts in every year dating back to 2018. And every year I've brought this up. Like, man, can we just continue to expect Wheeler and Nola, our 1A and 1B guys, certainly Wheeler's 1, 1, 2, however you want to categorize them, to be available and dependable and pitching at this level? So it's like, I'm not surprised. This is how life goes in sports, especially at this level, right?
It's a valid point that you're making. I'm not sighing at it at all. I've also said all leading into spring training every season, at what point is Zach Wheeler not going to be the Zach Wheeler that we know? At what point is Aaron Nola just not going to be able to be as consistent as he has been for this team over the years? All of those questions always come up when you have older players. When is the drop going to happen? Nola's been a guy who had only been on the injured list one other time in his entire career. So his, calling card has been his durability. And now all of a sudden he has hit a wall, hurts his ankle, innocently hurts his ankle. Then it turned into this, that, and now he can't even play catch for 2 weeks. I mean, this sounds like, hey, either they're making a bunch of stuff up just because they don't want to see him back out there because he struggled so much and they like what Mick Abel's doing, or he's legitimately breaking down a little bit here.
It's just funny how they seriously say play catch. The guy can't play catch for 2 weeks. It's exactly. What a shame. But, all right, if I have
and as you say that, I picture Fido just running around, like having a blast in the backyard.
Yeah. It's like, I hate to say this about Nola, no disrespect, but because of our depth in the starting rotation, if we had to have a significant injury anywhere on this team and roster, wouldn't we want it to come at starting pitcher? Like, we can weather this storm is my point.
Not only would you want it to come at starting pitcher, it would be this particular starting pitcher would be the one that you would be okay with because he was struggling so much. He was 1-6. His ERA was up over 6. His whip was 1.8. So it would have been a story for the Phillies if they kept trotting him out there every single fifth day and he wasn't, because then they'd have to answer all the questions. What are you going to do with Nola? Now they don't have to answer those questions. Now they just keep saying, well, he can't play catch. He hurt his ankle. Oh, they don't even know how he got hurt this time.
Yeah, I'll ask this. If Nola is absent from the playoffs, assuming the Phillies get there, assuming they even win a round or two, are they capable to have success without him? I know
absolutely.
His pace at times, but he has been extremely valuable in the playoffs.
Oh, listen, I am not a Nola hater. I understand the Nola coaster, but what he brings and provides for this team throughout a long season is he gives you 6 innings almost every single time he goes out there. You need that to help save your bullpen. if you want the best version of your bullpen, you need an Aaron Nola, because every time he pitches, he saves your bullpen most of the times he goes out there. So, yes, they need – but I think they can get by without him in the playoffs. No question about it. They have enough depth and talent to replace him.
Yeah, I know they can get by in the short term. It's almost like, okay, we'll see after the All-Star break, hopefully, knock on wood. But, man, if this lingers, if he re-aggravates it in August, whatever that may look like, then that could have a negative impact. But for now, it's like, yeah, let's just keep complaining about Brandon Marsh and the bullpen, I guess.
Yeah, and listen, I mean,
all valid.
The one thing they have is a plethora of starting pitching. The one problem they have is Aaron Nola's contract almost makes him locked into your rotation, and he's the one guy you're saying, well, I don't know even if I need you in my rotation anymore. That's, they didn't have the foresight to make the tough decision, and they signed him to the 7-year deal thinking, hey, this guy's durable. He's not going to get hurt on us. Now he hasn't pitched well, and he got hurt on you. A bad combination. That contract, I mean, once again, you start to look up at the box that Dombrowski sits in. I think there's a lot of things we can question about this roster and decisions that were made and have not been made. Once again, I bring Dombrowski up, but I think we need to continue to bring him up. Bring Dombrowski up? No question about it. I think it's definitely fair that I don't think he's brought up enough. Yeah, but you brought up the fact that you were cool with them running it back. I was cool with running it back just because, once again, the thing that I said that I hate about myself when I bring it up is that it is baseball. Like, I don't look at it the same way as I would the Eagles or the 76ers. Like, just because the Phillies fell short last year to the Diamondbacks in the World Series the year before, I don't put the stamp officially and say, I'm defining this group as not capable. I still feel like this group is capable. Now, that doesn't mean I agree with every decision that was made roster-wise and contract-wise as well. Does that make sense, or do you side with that? Listen, I mean, if you're saying in one breath you were cool with them running it back, and then in the other breath you're saying, well, then I'm blaming the guy for not doing enough, it sounds like it's very contradictory. That's all. It does. No, it does, but I'm just saying, like, we can also criticize him with minor decisions and also big picture understand why he ran it back. I understand why he ran it back. That doesn't mean I give him a free pass of every decision he's ever made. Well, there's a lot here. When you get judged, you're getting judged on everything, but we like to judge only the major things. He brought the same lineup back that has failed you multiple times. He brought in Max Kepler as the one guy on the peripheral. That has not worked. No. If this team falls short, I'm sorry to cut you off, but to your point, if this team falls short this year, I'll raise both hands and say I'm an idiot. I was wrong. They should not have ran it back. But I'm letting this year play out, and hopefully they can do it. I think that running it back wasn't the problem. It's like the Sixers. You signed Paul George and Joel Embiid. That was your big splashes. What you did on the peripheral was not good enough last year. You brought in, Eric Gordon and Andre Drummond, and all those pieces failed you. Your stars also failed you. The problem the Phillies are having is their stars are – Harper's not been Harper. Schwarber's been very good. Turner's been very good. But you brought in Kepler, and he hasn't added anything. You brought in Romano, and he has been I don't even know what to make. I don't even know what to make of Romano. I gave him a C- as an addition because – and then somebody who's like nitpicking is like, oh, he's an F. I'm like, he was an F for. If you're going to give him a C-, just give him the D. Well, I will say, if you look at his numbers, go look at his numbers in the month of May. He was pretty good in May. He got off to his first 4 outings, he was atrocious. But since then, he has kind of settled in. And then, yes, once he has settled in, he had a bad outing in Sacramento. And, you're not going to have a great outing every time out, but in the month of May, he kind of, re-settled down. Now, do I trust him as the closer of a team that's going to win the World Series? I do not. But I do not think he's been an F. No, I don't think you can give anyone an F on June 10th. I mean, if you want to try and evaluate up to this point. If I'm giving you your first quarter grade, right, the first quarter grade, I said the question that came up, Nuggets asked me this. grade Dombrowski's offseason moves, which was Kepler, Luzardo, Romano, and was there another guy that was included there that we forgot? I don't think so. I think there's those, maybe one other guy. Is there one other guy? Luzardo, Romano. Oh, Joe Ross was the other one. Yes, Joe Ross, who I gave an incomplete because he has barely done anything. Kepler, D.
What did you give? What did you give up to this point? The overall grade, not individuals.
Oh, for the team overall, I mean,
What was your answer for that?
they've been about a C- as a team.
Okay, but that to that particular question, grading Dombrowski.
No, I'm saying Dombrowski's moves. I said a C-.
Right.
As the moves. I said Kepler is about a D. I mean, he's provided pretty much. He's a good defensive player, but
Kepler
nothing
stinks.
offensively. Yeah, Kepler, nothing. Ross has been about an incomplete. He really they have no role for him.
They've made no impact. Like Dombrowski's moves, no impact, right? So I think up to this point,
Luzardo's been pretty good.
My bet, yes, you're right. Luzardo, I would say the only one, unless I'm wrong again with that, but off the top, Luzardo, yes. But yeah, up to June 10th, I agree with you. It's a D. Like those moves and grading Dombrowski is a D. Now, this team can turn it around, and even if those guys that he added still have minimal impact, you can still say Dombrowski had success as long as the team has success, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're going to have, like, if Jordan Romano, if we're talking about him in August as your best bullpen guy, they didn't do enough.
Right. I think that's the thing. It's like, okay, trying to grade and evaluate the guys that have been brought in. Well, it's more about the guys they didn't bring in.
If Jordan Romano in August is still your best bullpen guy, not only did you not, and like that's even if Romano turns it around and is like lights out excellent, you still didn't do enough. Now, I don't see Romano being lights out excellent, but I'm just saying, if he is your best guy come playoff time, your bullpen is not good enough. Now, Kirkering has been really good recently.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think, look, Romano was
last year.
Well, he was hurt last year. He missed most of the year with an injury, but the 3 previous years, he was excellent. Lights out, dominant. And I think the Phillies felt like if he was over his arm problems, he goes back to the guy that he was in those 3 seasons, which were, I mean, if you watch him pitch in Toronto those 3 years, he was lights out good. Now, last year, he was terrible, but he missed the whole season. He had an arm problem. So I think what happened this year was the Phillies signed him, got him on the cheap, and figured he's going to get off to a slow start, but as the season goes on, he kind of gets his footing and gets back into back into it, and he can be the guy that he was in Toronto.
Yeah.
He is getting closer to getting better, but I don't think he's going to be the guy that he was in Toronto, and if he's not good enough to be your best guy.
Sure, I agree with all of that. It's like, for me, I love the signing because you get him on the cheap and you hope for the best, but I don't think you should ever have expected the best, right? You can be hopeful and see, okay, maybe this ends up working out, but you have to have it in that way.
Right, like if he came in and became the guy that he was in Toronto, that's bonus. Now, Kirkering has been much better the last, I think they said last night during the broadcast, his last 12 outings, his ERA is like under 1. I mean, but I still don't trust Kirkering yet. Kirkering's going to have to give me like 3 straight months of dominant performance. Yeah, he's going to have a bad outing here and there, but like 3 straight months where he comes in, you feel like it's a lights out inning, and you're not getting that from him. Strahm last night gives up the home run to Happ. Strahm last year was an all-star. He made the all-star game because he was so good.
Yeah. Are we at the point, I know it's still early, but are we almost at the point of thinking that the bullpen success is just completely dependent on the starting success? And I know it's always hand in hand, but you get my point. Like, we just need our starters to go 7-8 innings.
You got to have your starters. I said in the playoffs, the one thing the Phillies have is they have pitchers that hopefully can get them into the 7th inning. Right. And then this way, you only need bullpen guys for 2 innings. That's your best shot right now.
Right.
There's today's Ryer side today on the Sports Bash Live. A lot of Phils. They play the Cubs tonight And it's Mick Abel making his third big league start for the Phillies. Mick Abel pitching for the Phils. Check that out. And by the way, Andrew Painter is also pitching tonight for the Lehigh Valley team. That is the game on MILB. You can check that out free if you want to watch Painter pitch tonight as well. All right, man, we'll do it again tomorrow.
All right, man.
All right, there you go. Ryer Size, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. All right, we have the Bet365 play of the day. It's coming up next here on the Sports Bash. 5:53. Getting ready to get out of here on this Tuesday night. We got the Bet365 play of the day. How did we do last night?
I recommend, Mike, you never go with baseball money lines ever again. You lost them both.
Wow, really?
The Mariners lost 7-1, and the Brewers lost 8-4.
A little surprised by that. Thought we did pretty well with those picks. Well,
It's not.
Listen, I got to get back into the baseball mode, all right? I got to get the sample size on the baseball stuff. I got the Mets and the Yankees tonight. That's my Bet365 plays of the day. Mets and Yankees tonight. I hate to go Mets, but I got to go Mets. The trends are saying go Mets tonight, Metropolitans, Yankees as well. Both those teams. Yankees are playing the Royals. Mets are playing the Nationals. And that's my Bet365 plays of the day. Mets are minus 150, by the way. Not a lot of money to be made on the Mets singularly, but if you pair them up together with the Mets and the Yankees, you got minus 150 for the Metropolitans tonight and the Yankees against Kansas City. That will get you minus 190. You put them together, you might make a couple bucks.
I believe that would be plus 110.
There you go.
Math,
At the end of the day, you get plus money. That's my Bet365 plays of the day. We'll do it again tomorrow here on the Sports Bash. Thanks to everybody who was a part of today's show. We appreciate you as always. We always thank you for listening and being a part of the show. Game night's up next right here on 97.3 ESPN. Tomorrow, a Wednesday edition means a Stump the Sports Geek Wednesday. We'll do it right here on 97.3 ESPN. Have a great night, everybody.